Hello, guys, and welcome to the King's Cup Week 2 Match 2. We are going to be seeing Innocent Bubbles versus Killswitch playing today, and I am joined by none other than our very own Bear Gardner in the top right corner. Bear, introduce yourself. Where can people find you? Who are you?
Hey folks, some of you probably already know me, some of you might not. I am a Twitch streamer, YouTube content creator. You can find me basically at Bear_Gardner everywhere, including on the Cards main Discord, King's Discord, my own Discord. I'll pop links at the end of the stream. Sure, other people will pop them up if they've got them. I imagine some of my mods are hanging out down there. I've been in this for about a year, which I just realised while talking to King like a minute ago. I'm coming up on my year's anniversary of having even touched cards. And I love this community. I am probably best known for being a big proponent of content for new players and trying to drive the new player experience, as well as some commentary on interesting things like mind theory and game theory.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, if you don't know, if you're not subscribed to Bear, check him out. He has stuff for people of all levels. If you're new to the game, if you're growing your collection, or if you've been playing this game for a while and just want to hear more of like the thoughts of somebody who has, spent a long time playing games of various sorts. You know a lot behind sort of the mechanics of games in general, as well as the theory, the psychology behind it. And we'll be hearing your input on the psychology behind it and in getting into game theory a bit in these matches, because what we have up right now is the scoreboard of the current standings of the tournament after, well, we're in the middle of week 2. So Innocent Bubbles and Killswitch, this will be their second game. Baron and Birdo Burrito have already played their second game, and as you can see, Baron Von Glower is currently the man to beat, sitting at the top of the heap, a score with a 2 match wins, Birdo down at the bottom with 0 match wins. But this is doing things a little bit differently. This is not simply just how many match wins do you have at the end of the day. This is the primary score is game win loss difference. So it's about trying to win as many games as you can on top of trying to win your matches. So even though Birdo has lost 2 matches, both of them were very tight 3 to 4 losses, went to game 7, so he only has a score of -2, and Baron, both of his wins were very, very close wins, 4 to 3 victories, sitting at +4. So the margins are quite close between these players, and that's going to keep the scores quite close, which means anybody can win. And here today, we have Innocent Bubbles and Killswitch sitting in the middle, Killswitch narrowly losing his first game against Baron last week, and Innocent Bubbles narrowly winning his first game against Birdo Burrito last week. Both of them are going to be looking for a win. For Innocent Bubbles, it could potentially put him at the top. At worst, he would be tied with Baron at the top, but if he wins 4-2, 4-1, he can get into sole lead. Whereas Killswitch is going to be trying to bounce back, and even if he gets a sweep, like if he completely sweeps Bubbles here, he could get as many as 5 points in a single match here, which would go up and actually tie Baron. So both players have a lot on the line here. Bear, I know you've watched the previous matches. What do you have to say about what we've seen so far and about the scoring system in general?
So, I mean, you a lot of you know, but I know Jake knows for certain. I've been hyped about this since it was announced. So, this for me goes back to some of the days of playing with some of the very best players in CCGs in the back. And I was never one of the players that was up there. I was always one of the ones in the background helping with building decks and analysis and design. But this scoring system means that we really are seeing the quality of these players play out in a way that you don't see in a kind of just a ladder based qualifier followed by, best of threes, best of fives. They're all fine. But best of seven is a test of consistent deck building, but also mental focus and consistent play. The fact that we are on round 1.5 and every single set has gone 4-3 is mind blowing to me. I mean, I knew it would be close because I know some of these players, and I hope to get to know the others more. But the quality that you need to keep it this close is just, it's insane. I mean, normally if you were BVG in other tournament formats that you see, even short form tournaments like this, after a couple of wins like that, you're kind of sitting pretty thinking, I'm probably fine to coast a little bit. What I love about this is you can't. Every match matters, every win matters, and that I think is why this tournament is a testament to true player skill. And I think Berto showed that. If you haven't seen it, go watch the VOD of last night. Obviously, after you're done with this, because Berto showed a kind of intestinal fortitude, as my American football coaching days make me want to call it, that you do not see in other tournaments. He didn't like he had a rough start, had some very rough draws, and Baron had some epic top decks. But to keep your head clear and focus and realize what matters is, if I can, even if I do lose 4-3, I'm still in this. And that, I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? It's huge. And that's why I'm so excited to see these guys go at it. I love this format. I'm not going to lie. I wish we'd see more of it. I know it's too long form for like big
Yeah.
tournaments, but man, it's so good.
And speaking of that, of the format, let's talk a little bit more about it. So at this point, if you're a regular viewer, you know the gist of it already. But for anybody who's new or just needs a refresher, it is a 3-week round robin. So all the players will play each other once in a best of 7 match, 5 decks, 1 ban. And after the 3-week round robin, the 2 highest ranked players will play each other in a best of 9 finals. And every single week, including the finals, it is a completely new format. So this is going to restrict how they are able to build their decks, and because of this, they're going to have to bring new decks to every single event, which means you can't simply target what somebody brought last week or copy what somebody brought last week if they did well with it. This is really going to require the players to think on their feet every single week and come up with their own 5 deck lineups. And I mean, we've seen that work in great success. We've seen some very creative, interesting decks, and we've seen some decks that, you know, in probably wouldn't have been brought without some of these restrictions. But that's still part of the process, and that's part of the skill being measured here, and the merits that these players are going up against each other with. Deck building is an integral part of any card game, and it's something that's not often seen, or at least not often measured in many other card games, where it's simply just a standard format and everybody brings the same best 3 decks. So, what are these deck restrictions? Well, for this, the general deck restrictions is no cards are allowed in multiple decks. So this means regardless of how many copies you run in one deck, you are not allowed running that card in any other of your 4 decks. So even if it's an elite, if you run Desperate Measures in one Japan deck, you are allowed to bring a second Japan main deck, but it can't also run Desperate Measures. And if you're running, you know, 3 copies of 35T in Japan German aggro, you can't then run 35T in any other deck. So it makes bringing a lineup that might, a very standard lineup, and a lineup that we sort of saw in the OCC that just happened of Jagro frontline Hines, where you're running 35T in all 3 decks. This format, you can't do that. And currently, reserved cards are allowed as well, so this is going to expand the pool of cards these players have access to. They all have full collections, so that's not a worry. But it's really going to make them think more, because it's putting them out of their comfort zone. They're used to just playing with the cards that exist in the game now and decks that exist in the game now, but this is going to open that up as well. And for this week only, we are doing Pauper, meaning you can only run standard or limited cards. So no elites, no specials, and those previous deck restrictions still apply, so you're not just going to see 4 California regiments in every single deck. This is very exciting, and we saw some very, very interesting decks last week. Bear, I know you love the new player experience. I'm sure you love the Pauper format. What do you think about this week? I asked you which week you wanted to come on, and you said immediately, Pauper. I want to be here for Pauper. So uh, talk us through that.
I mean, so first of all, those who have followed me, and even if you want to go back and watch it, it's the first one is actually still up on YouTube as its own playlist. One of the things I did as part of new player experience of this to actually demonstrate how new player friendly this game is I ran a pauper only Soviet main deck to Field Marshal. And why did I do that? Because Pauper makes you do things that you don't do in any other format. It makes you have to really evaluate cards. I've played Pauper in almost every CCG I've ever played. There are some I haven't been able to because it just wasn't an option. But taking away those big hitting cards makes you think. But I will say one thing I do want to call out, which is not quite Pauper on, but I think needs noting in this, and I don't know whether it gets shouted about enough about this format, is the importance of that no cards in multiple deck rule when you're deck building. And if you're not getting it, if you're watching this and you're like, is it really a thing? Go and try and put together 5 decks in any of the formats that are coming up on this with that restriction in place, and you will start to see how taxing that seriously is in trying to find value cards. But I love Pauper because Pauper is, in many ways, it's the great equalizer. Because, and I'll endlessly say this, with the few exceptions, there are some cracked cards out there, let's be fair. But for the most part, Pauper will always make skilled play pay off because you can't rely on the same big swings, and I love that. I love to see that in this, and that's why when you said to me, "Hey, do you want to do this?" I'm like, "I'll do any of them, and I still will. I'll do as many more as you want, but I'm not missing Pauper Week."
Yeah. And just touching back on what you mentioned with the impact of this, it's really in conjunction with the 5 deck lineup you have to bring. Because if this was still like, 3 decks, 1 ban, best of 3, it's pretty easy to bring 3 decks that don't carry any of the same cards from a part. Because you just, you run, I don't know, Brit France, and then like US Germany, and then Japan Poland. And you've brought just 6 different nations. You don't even have to think about what cards interacting with each other. But when you're building a 5 deck lineup, it suddenly starts to you get hit with like, well, actually, how do I build like a US deck that doesn't run Germany? Like, can I afford to not to use Germany in something else? And like you're gonna want one German ally, and probably a German main. So then, how do you split the cards between that? Do you make one really strong deck and then a weak deck? Because you don't necessarily need to win the match, you just need to win as many games as possible. But then, is that super strong deck going to eat a ban? There's a lot of things these players have to think about. And speaking of the players, let's introduce them, because today we are going to be seeing Innocent Bubbles going up against Killswitch. Now, we're not going to go into too much depth on the player cards, because really the information is just right in front of you. But Innocent Bubbles, he's been around in this game since 2019. He's been playing in tournaments, he's been casting tournaments, he's been doing content creation. Innocent Bubbles is one of the most involved members of the cards community. And he's a good player. He's not just a pretty face. He is a very good player. And I mean, we saw that with his win over Birdo Burrito, who might have had more tournament appearances and more tournament success on paper. But I mean, he can hold his own in a best of 7, and that's why he's here. That's why he was invited, and that's why he's doing well. I mean, Bear, you have. How much opportunity have you had to interact with Bubbles, and how much do you know about him as a player? Do you have anything to add to this?
I mean, not as much as I'd like, but that's true of everyone in this community, and it's growing. But I mean, Bubbles has been one of the most friendly humans I've met since I came in here, and he's been someone I've run into him a lot on ladder. He's won more than I have, but to be fair, I've run into Killswitch a bit on ladder. He's also, by the way, won more than I have, which surprises no one. But no, legitimately, like Bubbles is friendly, he's intelligent, he's very erudite and capable of casting and producing. But what I'd love to call attention to, and it'll be relevant in everyone's card, is looking at the OCC, that the fact that, by the way, that is an OCC game win rate. So Bubbles is 50-50. He's basically 1-for-1 against the very best players in this game, and he's been in this game since 2019. He's been in 10 OCCs. Like that, people may look at that and go, "Is 50% win rate that good?" Yes. In this context, 50% win rate is huge. Like Bubbles is I honestly believe a much better player than necessarily is apparent, because he does a lot of casting and content, but he's a seriously talented player and also seriously good at being able to think the long game, which is why I think you would have wanted him in a best of 7,
Yeah.
because that's a whole different format.
And I mean, we can put as many praises as we want onto Bubbles, but his opponent is worthy of just as much praise, because he will be going up against none other than Killswitch. and Killswitch is another beast of this game. I mean, Killswitch just sort of came onto the scene, and at the beginning, nobody really knew who he was, and he started appearing in some OCC qualifiers, made it deep into an open once, and then just all of a sudden, it was just top 6 after top 6, top 8 appearances after top 8 appearances. He got second 3 times out of his 6 OCC appearances. That is crazy. And I mean, he might not necessarily be as a creative of a deck builder as the other players, but he is incredibly talented at playing what works. And in this format where people are taking some risks, Killswitch is going to be sort of the touchstone of just like what is the most what's the most like standard lineup you can try to build considering these restrictions. He's going to try to build that because that's what he's comfortable on, and if Killswitch is in his comfort zone when he is playing against you, that's a very bad sign. That means you're probably going to lose, because if Killswitch is feeling comfortable, it means he's going to absolutely destroy you. And I mean, that's what we're going up against today. I know Pauper is probably less in his comfort zone than the previous just classic mode. But I mean, we'll be getting into decks in a second here. You've said you've run into Killswitch a few times on ladder. I know he hasn't been as active in the tournament scene since you've joined cards, but have you heard anything about Killswitch, or have you gone back and seen any of his highlight reels?
So I am the human who, when I got into this game, like I did in every other games, I went and digested every match reel that I could find anywhere. And I've seen some of Killswitch's matchups and lineups, and as I say, I think I've seen him a couple of times ever because he's not been that active. What I will say is that if I was going to describe everything that I've seen about him in a single word, it would be clinical. It's not big, it's not all about flash and bang, and as you said, creativity. But on a good, solid list that he can rely on, every time I watch anything and have watched anything that he's played, he does not make mistakes, and that's the thing you live in fear of as a top competitive player. And I'm sure you've been there too. It's like I will live with the I love him to pieces, the Baron von Glowers all day long with the crazy decks that might explode on me and do stuff. But the thing that terrifies me is when I'm sat down, it's like if I make one mistake, there's no catch up because my opponent is not going to. And seriously, 50% of the time, making it to the finals of an OCC, we have to forgive, or at least I have to forgive his favourite deck archetype. We can put that to one side. But in all seriousness, these are serious players, but they're two. I think they are two very different players, and I think we'll see that in the deck lists.
Yeah,
They're approaching this very differently.
for sure. And what I love about Killswitch is just seeing how much he has grown as a player. I mean, getting into the OCCs, it's all about grinding down aggro, aggro, aggro. And in the first few tournaments I saw him in, he was just playing the top meta aggro decks, and he's certainly very good at playing the meta aggro decks. But really, you see in his favorite deck, I think his heart does lie in control. And as he felt more comfortable and learned more decks and became a bigger part of the competitive community, he started playing his hand at control decks. And he is a beast at control decks in a way that very few players are. I remember I had a very fun Soviet Italy control deck. It was geared around fatigue. I shared the list with Killswitch thinking that, like, no one else I know has had success with this deck other than me, and it's my favorite archetype. It is like the deck I live and breathe to play cards, Soviet Italy fatigue. And I gave it to Killswitch, and he brought it to the tournament, and then we met each other in the finals, and game one was a Soviet Italy fatigue mirror match that Killswitch ended up winning by a narrow margin. And creativity in deck building might not be where he shines. Creativity in plays is where Killswitch is going to come in, because he knows how to win even the most, like, absolutely unwinnable games. He will find a way to crawl his way back in, and as you mentioned, you make one mistake, he's right back in it. He will pounce on that immediately. But that is enough about what the players have done in the past. We are interested in what the players are going to be doing today. So let's start off by jumping into Innocent Bubbles' deck lists. So here we see his first deck, and it is the US-German midrange. This is sort of the bread and butter of cards Pauper format. You see the Californias, you see the Shermans, but I want to highlight something that's quite interesting, because there's, at this point, particularly in Classic, there's a lot of ways you can build US-German Pauper, because there's a lot of cards. There's way over 40 cards you would consider putting into this deck. And it's really easy to just go with the ones that have seen the most play in standard metas, but you have to think about why cards see play. It's not simply this card sees play because it's better than other options, it's because it exists in a field of other decks, and if it's good because it is good into decks that rely on specials and elites that you're not going to see in a Pauper format, it might be worse than another alternative that will be better into the stuff you're seeing in Pauper. And I think that is going to be big when we look at the BF 109 Trops. These 4-cost 3/3 planes, but if you control an infantry and a tank, which is not difficult for this deck, which is about half infantry, half tanks, it's coming down as a 4-cost 6/6, and we saw how big those 4-cost 6/6 planes can be in the previous match. So yeah, this deck is very scary. Bear, why don't you jump in here? I know you have a lot to say about these decks.
I mean, yeah, but I'm gonna try and keep it brief because nobody wants to be here too late. But hey, you guys know what you're getting into when there's the two of us on screen.
Also, I have to apologize. This is not Bubbles' deck. This is Killswitch's deck. Okay. Quick correction there. Sorry. Continue.
I was wondering as I was looking at the lineup because I'm looking at my notes for Bubbles' deck and going, is this the deck that? No. In all seriousness, this deck is pretty much the deck that, if these cards were available, I would be recommending as a starter deck for players. And that's not, there's no shade in that. The reason I'd recommend it is because this deck is just tried and true and consistent. There's one thing, so I absolutely agree on the Trop. It's one of my favorite new player cards, which is why I'm sad that it went away, because I think it was a really good piece of value for new players. But in this format, it's going to be important. I do want to call attention to the lurking threat of those 264 Panzergrens. Now, 64 Panzergrens came and went with regards to, is it really worth it for the push-up and proc for that extra like boost of credit? But there's so little super clean removal that you want to spend on just slowing down a quick credit gain, that those 64 Panzergrens timed right can allow things like a perfectly timed Trop drop, or even I've got a clear board and the 64 Panzergren pops, and next turn suddenly I'm dropping a scout car and a Trop, and I've got both of them on, and there's a 6/6 sat in the support line. Go on, answer it. And again, running We Can Do It gives you that extra sustainability. Stars and Stripes, obviously, clear down. Don't sleep on Second California. We're going to see that have importance in many ways as we go through these different formats in tournaments, because it's still a ridiculous card and it's not going to change. But yeah, this is consistency. This is about as frontline gets, but in the best possible way. And it gives you a deck where you can, this is as close as you get to playing chess in cards, because you know your pieces. All you have to do is look at how best to deploy them into your opponent, and you've almost always got at least a 50% chance into any matchup, which is why I think it's a strong call.
All right. Moving on to his second deck, and this is how you know it's Killswitch, because this is a Pauper Soviet Japan self-damage. Killswitch loves self-damage, and I was kind of surprised that we didn't see any in the previous match. Both players choosing to do different things with their Soviet cards in the Pauper format. But this, if you look at the core cards of self-damage, it's Red Dawn's, Bloody Sickles, Winter Warfares to trigger the self-damage cards, and then it's reducing the cost of the 34th Guards, and it's buffing the 456th Regiments, or the 456th Rifles. All of those are Pauper legal. That is the core cards of the deck. Like, yes, you're missing out on some of the very powerful Soviet elites, and Soviets love their elites, but the core cards of the deck are entirely Pauper, and you know what? You just throw in some Sunrise divisions like Killswitch has. It's a 2-cost 9/9 in a format where there's very little removal. What are you going to do about it? This deck is incredibly terrifying, incredibly potent. There's not a lot of tanks. They're really relying on that SU. So, you know, if you don't hit those Red Dawns and you don't find those SUs, it could definitely struggle against something like an air deck that's relying on cheap bombers to get on the board early to control your infantry. But that's one deck. You can always ban it, and even if you don't ban it, it's one deck in a 4-deck lineup, and this is incredibly powerful against, against decks like the previous deck we saw from Killswitch, like the Frontline list, where this is just going to be able to control their units early with the removal and then cheat out big stuff faster than they can.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like, the one thing I will say is I looked at this list and then I looked at it again and I was like, I kind of, there are two things that I wanted to do with this list, and one of them was hop straight onto ranked ladder with it. Because, by the way, kids, you can take this list as is and play it in standard format in Cards Now. Killswitch has not bothered to reach back into the annals of time for this at all, because all of these core self-damage tools are still out there. And no, this isn't fancy, but if you are a new player and you're looking for a list, by the way, of Soviets to try building, give this a swing and sprinkle in a couple of elites. This thing is a beast if it gets going. And I know someone did ask, like, about. I've been asked a lot of times about how much stand together do you run in self damage. I love that Killswitch is only running one of. I love that he's just on, look, I know what it's there for. It's there for the turn when I've got that 34th guard in the front line. I've got the op cost, I can ping HQ with it, then whack stand together, ping HQ with it again, and then just sit there and say, you've either got an answer or I win the game. I only need one because I'm backing myself to time it. Counteroffensive, same thing. It takes a seriously focused player to say, I only need one of these. I don't need a pile of them. I love this list. I think this list is going to be very difficult to beat.
Yeah, and going on with the choice of only running one stand together, part of it might be that the one thing that this deck is lacking compared to the standard version of it is those recons either just run on their own or from the scouting party. Those offer a lot. Those are the main card draw engine of the deck, and you can see Killswitch is running Arctic Convoys to make up for that. That's a card you don't typically see. But this is going to be running out of cards a bit faster than self-damage normally does. Now, every deck is going to be running out of cards faster than normal decks on ladder do, just because of the nature of the format. So I don't think that's going to be too much taken away from the deck, but it's a good call not to have too many of these tech cards, or else you risk being in a situation where, your hand is two stand togethers and no 34th guards, and you don't really have the hope of a big hand refill like you might with a scouting party Winter Warfare.
100%, yeah.
So now we get on to his third deck, and this deck is running Soviet Ally. It's a Brit-Soviet Spitfire deck, which is definitely, I mean, we said earlier, Killswitch maybe is not the most creative deck builder. Throw that out the window, because he's bringing Spitfire to a Pauper format, which, I mean, if you're going to bring Spitfire, Pauper's a good place to bring it, because all of the Spitfires, except for the 4-cost Elite, are Pauper legal, and the ways to cheat out Spitfires other than the Committed Crew Elite is RAF Ground Crew, or Emergency, I forgot the rest of the card, but it's Emergency something to generate more RAF Ground Crews.
Emergency measures.
Emergency Measures, that is how you know Bear does new player content, because he knows what that card is. But yeah, and then the Soviet Ally, the only thing it's bringing in with Soviets, you've used the sickles in the self-damage. You could have run something like Bryansk, which was I don't believe was present in the previous list. But you know what? He's saying the only thing I need is Claim the Skies, because again, removal's not easy. So why not have Claim the Skies when you're slamming down 6/6s, 5/5s, with the RAF Ground Crew? They're going to grow even bigger. I absolutely love this deck. This deck is basically just like are you playing Jagro or not? Because if you're playing Jagro, you'll probably win. There's supply shortages and there's Glamour Boys, so it's not a guarantee. Like, if you just draw a good hand against Jagro that doesn't hit their expansions, you will wipe their board, and then you play down a Glamour Boys and then a big Spitfire, and that's enough to win the game. But it's saying, like, if you were playing, like, anything slower than, like, frontline with some Blitzkriegs, this deck is just going to absolutely roll you, because it will just be playing Spitfire after Spitfire, and every time you play Spitfires on the board, you're essentially setting up like a 2-turn clock to kill your opponent, and there's just not decks in Pauper that are able to continually respond to that with board clears. So unless you are able to get a crushing board presence from the beginning of the game, it's going to be hard to come back against that. And it's hard to get a crushing board presence at the beginning of the game against a deck running Monsoon Rot and 4 supply shortages.
No, I mean, so I will say I play tested privately with some friends all of these decks, and this thing is monstrous. There's an interaction here which won't be apparent to anyone necessarily unless you've played this deck. The presence of RAF Ground Crew is it's like, oh, it's buffing Spitfires. If you drop that Exile Polish Spitfire and target that RAF Ground Crew to turn it into a fat guard, and then just look at your opponent and be like, I've got 5,5, 6, 6 Spitfires sat behind guards, and you've got one turn before I just wipe your HQ off the face of the board. If this thing works, it is devastating. It can stall and it can be outsped, but the value in this, especially if you can get a ground crew to stick, is huge.
Exactly. This deck is it's so simple when you look at it. Like, self-damage is relying on a bunch of different cards that might not necessarily be immediately apparently synergistic together. You have to sort of think about that deck a bit and piece it together. The Spitfire package just feels so simple, and yet nobody else here even thought about it. It's an archetype that if you think from the point of view of just regular standard competitive cards, playing on ladder, playing in tournaments, Spitfire is just completely unplayable. It's just far too slow, and it's just terrible. But it takes a certain degree of creativity and just awareness to recognize that this deck that people aren't even it's not even on people's radars as an archetype that exists in the game because it's so bad is legal in the format because of Classic, as well as because a lot of the Spitfire Synergy cards have been rotated, as well as they're all Pauper legal, and this is the time to break out the deck. And I think this deck is going to be winning its game when it comes up because I mean, there's just not enough decks in the format that can consistently beat this. But
yeah, I'd agree. It's so hard to answer. Yes, it lacks a little bit in places, but I love it. Anyway, we'll move on because we could go forever.
We most certainly could, and I know the players are antsy to get started. So let's move on to Killswitch's fourth deck here. It is the Jagro, and we saw a very similar list, maybe not necessarily similar in terms of card per card, but we saw a similar idea in his in the previous week in just the all-out classic. You could bring any cards, and he brought 39 Japanese cards, a 100% mono Japanese deck, and he's brought that back again today. And although he didn't win his series in the end, it wasn't because of this deck. And I mean, Japan is just incredibly powerful. There's more than 39 Japanese cards you would want to put in a deck before even looking at ally cards. And I mean, we saw the U.S. Germany. He's using a lot of those good German ally cards that you would typically see in a Jagger list in the US, Germany. So yeah, this list, I think, does just stand up on its own. And something that I heard from a couple other people is like, well, he's playing Mono Japan. Why isn't he playing for Prosperity? Like, that seems like the Mono Japan card if you're running only Japanese units. The simple answer is he doesn't need to. Like, it's even within a Mono Japanese deck, he's just made the evaluation that actually I don't think it's worth it. I'd rather just have more units for more consistency of draw. And that is what this deck is going to do. It doesn't have quite as many 1-drops as the Jagro we saw in the match yesterday. I think that deck had like 32 1-drops. This one has a bit more meat to it, which means there's a tiny chance that it's going to like whiff on the mulligan, but I mean it's about half 1-drop, so it's kind of difficult to whiff on the mulligan. But it's going to be able to stay in the game a little bit later with the Shinodos, the Dragon Slayer, and the Heians. And Heian is such a terrifying card. If you've ever played Draft, Heian is just the card that ruins your life. You feel like you've finally taken board. It's a lot of board-to-board trading. You're finally there, and then they just do Heian, attack phase for 5, next turn Heian, attack phase for 5, and you die. Because Guard is just not available to every nation.
Yep, I'm going to be really quick on this one because I've really only got like 2 things to say on this list. The first one is just over a quarter of this list is 0 op cost. That means something when you want to go fast. There are 10 cards in this that are 0 op cost. Watch them fly. 2, this deck can be summarized in one very simple sentence. It's either going to lose quickly or win quickly. But a lot of the time, it's going to win quickly unless you get a very bad draw, because this thing is just sheer aggro.
Exactly. Now, let's move on to Killswitch's final deck here. And speaking about aggro, this is going to be Jerfin Hines, because as it turns out, Jerfin Hines, you might think of it for its use of Blitz Doctrine, but it doesn't really need Blitz Doctrine. I mean, you just run all of the Panzer 2As, the T-26s, Lotusfied is Pauper legal, the 33rd Panzer Grenadier is Pauper legal, and again, no Blitzkriegs. I think we saw the Blitzkrieg in the US German deck, so that is the deck restriction coming in here a little bit, but he doesn't need it because his entire deck is tanks. The 33rd Panzer Grenadiers is more than enough to replace Blitzkrieg. And he has 3 copies of the Vespe, which, as we mentioned yesterday, artillery is incredibly powerful in this format, and if your deck is, I mean, I haven't counted it up, but I have to imagine it's close to 30 tanks. That means Vespe is just a 3-cost 3/3 artillery, and that is worth playing. That is incredibly powerful, and it might be a 3-cost 3/3 arty with 0 up, or a 3-cost 3/4 arty with 0 up once you get a Lotus Fired down. So yeah, watch out for this deck as well. Once you hit a Lotus Fired, this deck can start to fly, and it's just going to be too fast for a lot of decks, I think.
Yeah, I like this deck. I love this deck for a lot of reasons. Jerfin Heinz, or Bob Heinz means Finns for the Brits out there. In all seriousness, is really good on ladder right now. It is my primary ladder deck. And this is basically a pauper version of a legitimate top meta list. But yeah, the two kind of key points I want to make about this. First, Vesp, already pointed out brilliantly by J King. This was the first thing that I saw in this list and went, yeah, if you're going to pull one card from the reserves into this, it's Vesp, because it's just a free promotion. It just is. And that artillery like that, artillery in Pauper, is powerful. Just like bombers, always going to be powerful, and a lot of the artillery can buff. The one thing I will say is this: that if this deck has one weakness, it's that it is quite light on gas tank. There isn't a lot of draw here. This deck can gas out. You can just end up emptying your hand and having to hope that you top deck a lotter to keep your cards going. But yeah, watch this. If this thing takes off, watch it fly, because it's very hard to stop once it gets going.
Yeah, with a deck like this, you're virtually guaranteed to be able to control how trades go down in the first 4 to 5 turns of the game. The question is going to be whether that is enough to leverage this into enough HQ damage, enough presence on board to win the game, or if your efficient trading is eventually just going to run out of cards in your hand because your opponent just simply has more resources, regardless of how efficiently you are trading into them. But
Yeah, 100%. T26 is key for trading. But yeah, absolutely.
but it's now time to look at Innocent Bubbles' decks for real this time. Um, and right before we jump into this, I want to just do a quick shout out to enter the giveaway. So we will be doing giveaways between every game. So exclamation mark giveaway in Twitch chat to enter that. And the giveaway is gold. So regardless of where you are in your cards journey, there is something you can get out of it. So absolutely, by no means think that you're not worthy of trying to get the giveaway. Enter the giveaway. We have a lot of codes to give away today. And you only have to enter it once. And you'll be in the draw for the rest of this stream. So yeah, join the giveaway, and I will be DMing the codes at the end of the stream. So if you win, and I don't give it to you immediately, don't worry, you will be getting it. But now, let's get on into Innocent Bubbles' deck. And we saw the previous list, the US German list, that we had mistakenly identified as Bubbles. This is Bubbles' US German list. It's a little bit different. You don't see the tropes, but you do see a much bigger focus on the retreat mechanic. So there's the 3 Hummels, there's the 3 list regiments. These are both very big retreat cards. There's the 3 half tracks, the more standard retreat card that we are used to. And then on top of that, you just have the 4 California regiments. And if you're thinking that this deck feels a little bit heavier than the previous deck we saw, well, that's why there's 4 War Machines to get into these big 4-5 cost cards that this deck really wants to be playing down. Now, talk about what you want to say about this deck, but I also have a question for you, which is, how do you think, if we saw a head-to-head matchup of this deck versus the other deck, do you think do you think Killswitch's deck would be able to go under this, or do you think just the sheer value of the War Machine and then the bigger units would be able to overpower it if there were to be a head-to-head?
So, first of all, I love this list. I'll get to that in a minute, but I'll answer your main question first, because I know people are going to want to know my opinion on this. I would give these 2 lists head to head with good pilots, and these are very good pilots. I would probably put a 60-40 split in favor of Bubbles' list, and I'm about to explain why. So what Killswitch was looking to do with 64 Panzer Grenadier, and I do think it's a good, consistent solution. Bubbles has chosen to be a little bit more blunt instrument with war machines, but the advantage of that is that you can run the heavy stuff at the end. Like, List Regiment is not to be underestimated in Pauper. That is a big, big body that is just chunky and annoying. California Regiment, if you haven't played it, I'm glad you're new to the game. Um, Go back, watch some videos. It is seriously one of the most annoying units to deal with I have ever played against in the game. And yeah, King, spot on with his analysis. One of the first notes I made about this is there are 6 bounces in this list. And played well between the half tracks and the Hummer, they could be so huge. And I think that's what does give the edge to this list. And yes, it's trimmed down on the 164ths, and oh my god, you're not running 164ths. But I'm sorry, you've got the option of Choco Boys, and if you're not running a full set of Choco Boys and you're running US Frontline, what is wrong with you? But yeah, I love this list. And Firebomb, while it could be a dead draw, if you get your economy going with War Machine, those 2 firebombs are terrifying removal in this format because there are a lot of small health units out there, and that overlap damage can be massive. But I'm not going to go on forever. But yeah, I'd say this is probably 60-40 in favor of Bubbles' list for me, these two head to head.
Yeah, I think I'd have to agree with you on that analysis. If anything, maybe 65-35 for this list. We see back like a year ago, a year and a half ago, Frontline was very much a head-to-head Frontline. Whoever got into the Frontline first was almost certainly going to keep it. So just any deck that could be slightly faster in any way would just have a better chance of winning. But since then, we've gotten cards like Jaeger Regiment and the 164th, which are much more effective at responding to the opponent being in the front line before you. And it's a pauper format, so you can't run Red Devils and you can't run 99th, which are the big snowball cards of taking the front line early and holding it. So in this format, it's much easier to just be reactive, even if your opponent is building a frontline deck. Even if you let them get into the front line first, it's very easy to be reactive. And then, once the first 4 turns go down, if they've managed to convert their early game into like 3 or 4 damage face or maybe 1 extra unit in the front line, that's not going to matter once you start slamming down Californias. So yeah, I think this deck is very well suited for the mirror, but the mirror is not necessarily going to happen. There's a lot of different matches that are going to be going about, so it's going to be interesting to see if this heavier style is going to do well into other decks, and perhaps it might not be as well suited against some of the more aggressive decks like the Joe Finn or the Mono Japan aggro decks that Killswitch has. Now, moving on to Bubbles' Japan deck, this is Japan France. Now, it's not mill. It's actually the exact opposite of mill. It is Japan France sort of discard. You see the 3 the 3 sabotages coming in, which will act as both discard and value generation because you get to steal one of the 3 cards in their hand. And then if you look through the rest of the deck, this is just classic control tools. You have the naval operations as a bit of an AoE and just stall tool. I absolutely love Shogai Detachment. I think it's an incredibly underrated card, both good for draw and as removal. The Ryuseis, I love this card. It does not get to be played enough, but I absolutely love the Ryuseis. And then you get a bit of Call to the Qualities for heal card draw. I mean, I could go on about the cards of this deck, but I want to give Bear an opportunity because I'm sure you have a lot to say about this deck as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking quickly because I can't keep this as short as I want to because this deck is one of those decks that you've got so much to go into with the way that this deck will play, and I think you'll see that if we see this, if this doesn't eat a ban. I'm really excited to see this hit the board for lots of reasons, and one of them is just how many moving parts there are. Like, you're backing yourself to understand those moving parts and play them perfectly. Big thing to be aware of, depending on what your opponent's running, and it's not as big in this matchup because Killswitch hasn't done it. But the Shibata and Utsunomi just says orders, nah, ramp, nah, sorry, just no. You burn your HQ for me, and then I'll finish you off when I can be bothered, which is huge. Dragon Slayer timing gonna be massive. Do not underestimate those two. Sorry, the three Rima. Their impact on this game, if timed right, will be massive. And I love that Bubbles is running probably my favorite new France card in the 50-51 regiment. I adore the versatility of that card. And in Pauper, that's going to matter. And of course, we've got Naval Operation, because why wouldn't you? Also, shout out Coastal Gun. For the same reason that J. King loves Ryushi, I love Coastal Gun, because they both sit there and say, you're right, I can't hit your HQ, but we will destroy any unit you put on the board.
Yeah, this almost feels like a bit of a callback. I remember when Coastal Gun used to just be a draft menace because you'd play it early, and draft is somewhat similar to Pauper, where you don't get to exactly play all the cards you want. You can't build your synergies the same way you want with all of those elites and specials comboing off each other. And similar to draft, similar to Pauper. Draft is very much just unit trading, and when a Coastal Howitzer hits the board on turn 3 at a format based around unit trading, it's sort of just like a do you have an answer to it, or do you have a lot of one drops to just try to go wide and go wider than I can spend like one turn just destroying one unit. And it's difficult to go that wide in a deck because you then need a win condition or you need a hand refill. And there's not a lot of win conditions. There's sort of just Blitzkrieg as the go wide win condition, and there's not a lot of refills in a Pauper format. There's sort of just Lend-Lease. As the biggest thing. So this deck, very, very scary. Would not be that surprised if it eats a ban. Now, we've seen a lot of control decks here, and we've seen the control decks that have been banned so far be the ones running a lot of Pin, like the Monty Shellings. Now, obviously, those aren't legal in Pauper. Or the decks running Scorched Earth, just because everybody hates playing against Scorched Earths and Brionsk's. So it's going to be interesting to see if this eats a ban, because it's not running those traditionally really frustrating control cards, but if you just look at what the tools they have, it is a very powerful deck. But speaking of Bryansk's, but not Scorched Earths, we have a Brit-Soviet guard spam deck. So obviously you see the classic elements of the guard spam, which is the I was going to say the West Kents. Oh, there they are. Okay. Yeah, so you do have the guard spam with the mobile defense, the Royal West Kents, the first responders, the glamour boys. Then you have a lot of elements that you don't normally see with the guard spam deck. At least we didn't see from the guard spam decks in the previous series. Although I believe that deck did get banned in the end. Is you have the Argleshire, which is a card you do not often see, and he's running the Raph Mitchell, which is a card I don't think I have ever seen touch the board ever. But these are cards that do have some degree of guard synergy, and in a Pauper format where removal is less plentiful, and you are going to be just spamming down like 10 health of guard every single turn, these units do not have guard, which means they will be protected by your guard units. So anything with any simple amount of synergy, even basic synergies here, could be enough to just overpower decks with the sheer amount of value you can generate from this.
Yeah, I mean, I loathe this list in the best possible way. This list is basically saying, I am going to guard up, I am going to turtle up, and either I'm going to just slowly walk forward and crush you once I get Royal West Kents on the board, or my Soviet spies are going to show me how to nuke you into the next world. And just do something about it or you're gone. And Raph Mitchell, I agree with you. I've never seen it see play, but in this list, it makes a terrifying amount of sense because it's gonna get the proc, and if it lands, good luck getting that off the board while dealing with big, like heavy guard boys, like glamour boys. This list, I wouldn't want to play into this. Just saying, I would not want to play into this list.
Yeah, I mean, if the spy rings were replaced by Scorched Earth, I would ban this without even a thought. I would just be like, absolutely not. Now, yeah, the spy rings might be just a better inclusion. They're more useful in a variety of situations and against a variety of decks. So the deck might be better without the Scorched Earths, but it does give a little bit of pause to whether this immediately eats a ban. But I would certainly still put this very high up on my list of decks I do not want to be playing against. But speaking of decks, this is a Germany combined arms aggro deck, and we saw Killswitch running a German Finland very aggressive German deck. This is German Italy, and this might be the spiciest deck of the match today. I don't know if that's fair to say, but this deck has a lot going on in it. It has a lot of cards we're not necessarily used to seeing, like the Savoya, of course, synergizing with the combined arms and working in a somewhat similar way as the Hummer deck. Now, it doesn't have Fury, but if you can do turn 1 Savoya, turn 2 Jaeger Regiment combined arms, you can absolutely pop off. And then on the top end, you have those 4 copies of the Trop that we saw Killswitch running in his front line. Innocent Bubbles has saved them for this deck because, again, the Savoya counts as a tank and an infantry in a single unit. So if Savoya's on the board, Trop comes down as a 6/6. And then on top of that, there's a bit of a pincer sub-theme with 4 copies of the 101 and 3 copies of Swag. So even if you miss your pop-off early game, if your opponent is unable to answer your turn 4 Swag or your turn 4 Trop, you can just absolutely pop off, and the breakthrough allows that even more so.
Yeah, so first of all, a little bit of bias to declare here. I've not seen anything in advance of this, but this is of this entire round of this entire week. This is my favorite list of all 20. I think it is actually quietly the spiciest, not just of this match, but period, because this list is going back to something that Cards has always had in it, which is that incredible kind of infantry tank combined arms synergy, but in such a go big or go home way. This thing has so many terrifying combos that if you get them off, if you see if you see like the turn 4 and you see the Swag and you haven't removed it, and then turn 5 your opponent goes, look, 101 infantry, pop pop. Seriously, at this point that is almost game.
Yeah.
Because that thing is, if you do not have removal, it is unanswerable. Vesp, for the same reason as discussed before, is going to be supreme value here. Savoya Cavalria is a much underrated card, in my opinion, because early on in the game, and again, you play a content bias, the fact that it counts as infantry and tank for 1 point, for 1 credit, is huge. And watch out for those Folgore, if timed right, just making your opponent cry quietly in a corner, because it removes the timing you need to answer. Because a lot of the threats here are answerable, but only if you can answer them quickly. This is tied with the previous list for my lists I want to ban from Bubbles creations.
The only thing about this list that makes it within the realm of fair is that this deck has a combined 2 draw in the entire deck. So if you miss these big synergies, and now these synergies are all standard cards, which means that you're in some way more likely to draw them, but it's also possible that, you end up with a hand of 3 combined arms and 2 Swags, and you're missing your Savoyas and you're missing your 101sts, and the deck just absolutely falls apart, because that's sort of the issue with running multiple synergies, or sort of sub-themes within a deck, is if you don't run the card draw to back that up, some games, you're just not going to get it. But in a best-of-7 format, that's not going to happen 4 times in a row. That might happen once, maybe, but happening twice is already pretty unlikely. And if a deck's basically guaranteed a 50% chance to win a game, that's pretty good. And I think it's probably a better than 50% chance, to be completely honest. But now it is time for Innocent Bubbles' last deck here. And again, speaking of decks that might eat a ban, this is really the only... I can't believe it, but out of the 20 decks, we saw Shoge Regiment in one of the previous decks in the Japan-France, but this is the only deck that's really dedicated itself into running these covert units, these covert themes, and it's a very powerful Pauper format, because Deuce and basically all of the covert cards, with the exception of the 2 elite ones and Groom and Goose, you can't run. You can run in this format, plus you're getting back war production out of reserves in a format that's already low on removal in the first place. You just war production out a separate BTN on turn 1, and you're just going to win the game, because by the time your opponent has anything to answer that, it's going to be a 20-20, and your opponent doesn't run removal for anything with higher health than 3. So the game's just over. And then on top of that, if that wasn't good enough, he has the T60s for just sheer value, as well as these 36th Cavalry regiments, which are a absolute menace in sort of lower rarity formats, as well as sort of lower collection. The ranks of with people of lower collections have told me that they absolutely fear this card of the 36th Cavalry, an incredibly powerful card.
Yeah, it's game changing for new game players. My top note on this is in war production, has Bubbles found the one thing that Covert needs to actually be good? And I'm not kidding when I say I think he might have. This list, I really don't want this list to be banned, but only because I want to see this list played, because this list is just terrifying if you don't do it. And I want to bring something up, and it's match relevant. Killswitch is not bringing any classic air lists with a lot of bomber, which means his only strong covert answer is artillery if he can keep it around. And that can be huge. 115th Separate Battalion is low-key, if you can get it to work, one of the most powerful cards in the game. And I'm not just talking about in Pauper format, because that thing can get out of hand so fast. 5th Infantry, smart include, M10 A1s. Suppression is going to be good if you can time it right. There are some issues. It might struggle to get the front line against some of Killswitch's lists. But if it does, look to this thing to be very, very hard to unseat once it gets there, because that's what Covert does, is if it can get the front line, it's really hard to get it back off it.
Yeah, I think really maybe the one thing I would change from this list if I were to bring this, I think overall, incredibly well thought out list. And just, again, is somewhat similar to the Spitfire list in that it's just like, it's so simple, yet they're the only players who are doing that. So, like, clearly it's a degree of just recognizing recognizing the potential of a format that hasn't really been played before, not just simply relying on what has been played in other tournaments here. But the one thing I would maybe change is just accept that, if I'm against Brit Air, I'm against Brit Air. Maybe I go in banning whatever Brit deck they bring. I would probably replace the 52Ks with hammers, just to be slightly better against guard decks, to deal with artillery, which I think are going to show up more often than planes that will die to a 52K, because I think if your opponent's playing planes, they're probably going to be of the 6/6 variety, through the Fiats or the Trops. Or like, I guess it answers Dragon Slayer, but again, that's like a one-of card in one deck. So, I think the 52Ks might not be as impactful as Bubbles wants, but again, they're just an RD body which can, if it gets buffed by the 103rd Cavalry, can just be a threat that can win a game. Sometimes just a 3/3 RD wins a game, even if it's 2-up and its deployment affected nothing. So
yeah, 100%. I do agree with you. Like, I had exactly the same conversation when I was chatting to someone after testing, which is the one thing that I would probably have done is try and bring some removal over the 52K, because honestly, I'm just like, if you see Brit Air, you just ban it and move on. But that's just me. But yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see, and I love that we're seeing Covert. And I agree with you. I love that we're seeing two players who are not afraid to just go, it's simple, it works. I don't need anything else. I just need simple, consistent, and it works.
Exactly. Now, this is the last deck, so we are finally moving on from the decks to the bans, and we have each player's ban. So, as it turns out, we will not be seeing the guard spam deck coming out from Innocent Bubbles. I believe that is 2 for 2 with Pauper guard spam being banned, with it being brought. And then on Killswitch's side, that US-German frontline is getting banned, so we will not get to see sort of that head-to-head matchup of the frontline decks against each other. And I have to say, at the end of the day, I wonder if that simple ban from Bubbles could come back to be the game-deciding factor. Because from Killswitch's perspective, like, banning guard spam was probably going to get a win if you didn't ban it, and there are decks that you could have banned, and those are also probably going to get a win. There's a lot of decks from Bubbles where it's like, this deck is just going to win 50, 55% of the time, and there's not much you can do about that. You just have to accept that. Whereas from Innocent Bubbles' side, U.S. German is sort of the face of Pauper format in cards, and it's been historically incredibly powerful. But with all the cards from Classic, combined with all of the more newly released cards since the last major Pauper event, I do have to just question: is this particular build of US Frontline the best deck in this 5-deck lineup? Because at the end of the day, I think maybe there are decks in Killswitch's lineup which will win games which that US Frontline didn't. So if Killswitch ends up narrowly winning this in a in a Game 7 type situation, I do have to wonder if this had been a different band coming out from Bubbles, if maybe that Game 7 would have gone the different direction. But that's completely conjecture. And what do you think about that?
If you'd asked me in advance, these are the two bands I'd have expected. In fact, you did ask me in advance. These are the two bands I would have expected, but no one else has a record of that. We were talking about this earlier. Um, I'm backing my fellow Brett. I think Bubbles' ban is actually genius, and I think it's genius for a very specific reason. If I'm Bubbles, as good as I know I am, I do not want to back myself against someone who can play the level of just cold 3D chess that Killswitch can with a toolbox, with arguably the most versatile toolbox in this format. And I think that's where you and I might disagree. There are other bands you could have done, but I think Killswitch on that US German frontline list would be just unspeakably mentally hard to deal with, and that in and of itself is a factor.
Yeah, that is very true. It's also getting his opponent out of his comfort zone. Killswitch probably has like thousands of games on Frontline.
Yeah.
Now, not this exact version of Frontline, but he's certainly comfortable with this set of cards in a deck. So just getting him out of his comfort zone, even if it's maybe not his highest win rate deck head to head in your lineup, just getting him out of his comfort zone, pushing him into playing these types of decks that he maybe feels just less confident in, is going to be a big part of that. But here we go, going into game 1. And we are seeing the mulligans. It's going to be the Mono Japan from Killswitch on the bottom here, going up against the Covert deck coming out from Bubbles on the top.
Oh, I love this. This is going to be hard mulligans, though. I don't think either of them are super loving their opening hands here. I'm certainly not.
Now, if I'm Killswitch, I'm not looking at the cards in my hand. I'm looking at the number of cards in my hand because they are 4, not 5, and that is going to be a massive, massive boon in his favor because Bubbles put his Bloody Sickles into the guard spam deck, which means there are no Bloody Sickles in the Covert deck, meaning a turn 1 cavalry regiment will prevent Deuce from being able to pop off. If this was reversed, if Deuce came down on turn 1 going first, we would see at least one Covert unit cheated out before Killswitch could trade out the Deuce. But here, Deuce is simply going to get traded out with cavalry, and now a second cavalry and a Sakura regiment will come down, and Bubbles will just simply have to play another Deuce and pass, most likely.
Yeah, this is a huge tempo loss for Bubbles with Killswitch going first and getting such a good opening hand. Just with those bodies that he can get there that answer the thing that your deck runs off, that's going to be huge. It's not unwinnable, but I don't like it if I'm Bubbles right now.
Now we do actually see Innocent or Killswitch over here is thinking about this trade. Now it's he doesn't see Bubbles' hand. He doesn't know Bubbles has 3 Covert units in hand with the second Deuce that will let him get out 3 units from hand if Killswitch does not make this trade. Killswitch is thinking, well, if I don't trade, he spends his turn 2 playing a Covert unit rather than trading, and I go face for 2, and then on the following turn I go face for 4 and push up a Sakura regiment. And that's his thought process. He's thinking your deck is too slow, but unfortunately he's going to be getting punished by the second Deuce.
Yeah. I totally get where Killswitch was thinking. I can almost imagine the thought process myself if I can't see my opponent's hand, but this is going to get punished if he doesn't find a response.
Now, there is also another thing to note is Covert, if if your opponent is sitting back, that is exactly what Covert wants. They want to get these ambush Covert units to the front line. They want these, the separate BTN and the 38th Rifle Regiment. They want to get these guys growing, so that they can summon, they get the more stats, or they summon the T-34. What they don't want to have to do is have to trade out with your cards. If you force
No, and
Covert to trade, means that Covert is not doing what they want to be doing. And I think that was the idea
yeah.
behind Killswitch's play.
I like it. I do. I think you've got to consider. I would consider M10ing this cavalry just to avoid cycle, but we'll see. Because I think what you've got to get if your bubbles right now is, yeah, there it is. You need to find a way to just get that front line and then say to your opponent, come and take it off me. What I will say is that Bubbles needs to keep card advantage for as long as possible. What he doesn't want to see is an expansion or any
Yeah.
kind of big draw.
Yeah, Bubbles wins this game on value 100% of the time. But what
Fine,
he
yeah.
wants is for Killswitch to have these awkward turns, these turns where he can't do everything he wants. So in this case, he has to choose between, does he push Akita, or does he push Sakura Regiment, or does he push both and not take the 3 damage with the Cavalry Regiment. The War Production pickup is going to allow Bubbles to trade out both units here. Now, I believe he has to wait one more turn to get the T-34. So he's
Yes,
going to
he
just
does,
hold on to
and he
that.
will. Yeah, he's going to wait the turn. He's going to do exactly what I do. He's backing on it now, and now Killswitch has got to be playing that thing that you hate against Covert, which is what are they, and which one's more likely to be the thing that I need to pop before it absolutely destroys me. What he, of course, doesn't know is that neither of these is good because you've got Separate Battalion, which, if it gets in the front line, is basically saying, hey, Jagro, this could be game for you. Or letting him pop off for the extra tanks. But we'll see. He's going to go face, which I don't know that I like that. I don't know what you think, J King, but I don't know that I like letting these coverts just sit.
I mean, I think the idea is he doesn't know if one of them is the ambush guy. And if you attack into it and it's the ambush guy, it's almost game over. Like, your opponent loses the credits, but you've just sacrificed a unit, you've sacrificed the ability to attack face, and you've spent credits on your turn making a trade that your opponent would be forced to do, and it would also be worse because you wouldn't get the ambush to stop the damage. It's just so immediately game losing if he attacks and it's the
Oh,
ambush guy.
yeah.
Unfortunately, that is not the case. It's going to be the
It's,
T-34 that comes out, and it can even get into the front line here.
yeah, this is going to be huge. He's got war production if he wants to pop it. He's going to pop it. Yeah, he has to. This is massive. This is really big.
I have to say,
That's a big turn.
I'm very
I'm surprised.
surprised.
Yeah, I'm surprised we don't have something in the front line.
Yeah, because the other coverted unit, I believe it is the US one, the 3/4 that gives
Yeah,
+1/+1. So it wouldn't have triggered the +1/+1, but it would have stopped this Shinodo from hitting face. And looking through Bubbles' deck, I'm looking for guard units. There's 2 T60s, but he doesn't have those in
yeah,
hand, and there
that's it.
is no HQ gain. And here you have the front
No,
line, but you're a turn away from Heian just going in.
yeah, he'd need the guard top deck to be really happy with this. But now this is where you hate
Oh,
to play covert.
I don't want I don't want Killswitch to make this attack. Now we see
Yeah,
Bubbles
you and
doesn't
me.
have orders, so it's not going to do anything. But
Oh,
oh,
oh, that's brutal.
and the reason he does it is if it's the 3/4 and you can deny the turn,
Yeah.
you can deny the buff or deny the tank spawn, or it's a BTN and you deny
Oh,
the
war
+2/+1. But
production,
that is
and
the worst one you can get.
I mean, if you're kill switch now, you're like, okay, I need to find a way out, and the expansion sat in hand, going, don't you wish you'd had me earlier?
And I think this is just game. He can trade out
Yep.
the tank, but the covert plus the 3/4
Yeah.
covert and the 5/4 covert will be enough to end out the game. Apologies that
Yeah.
I don't know the name of these cards. They aren't played a lot, and they all are infantry regiments or rifle regiments.
I have paper copies and I'm having to look it up. But no, I mean, legitimately, this is game. Maths just says no here, and Bubbles has this covert go deck of his. So good, so strong. He played this really, really well, and I really want to point this out. This is not an easy win. Um, you, there are a couple of things that if you're a covert player, you might have looked at and gone, is that really the right play? That was beautifully done. Um, as a very, very good, very quick win for Bubbles.
Yeah, and that's
Um,
definitely a deck that you want to get a win on. Now, Covert's a
yeah,
very frustrating deck to deal with. But again, we said that maybe its issues could arise from facing into some of these aggressive decks that might be a bit faster. But we saw Jagro, the most aggressive deck Killswitch has, and it went first with a cavalry. But that one decision of just, I'm not going to hit the deuce, I don't think my opponent can punish me, and bam, your opponent punishes you very, very hard. We saw risks being taken in the previous set, in a best of
yeah.
seven. You feel a bit more able to take some of these more risky plays, because it's not simply just like, if the risk is punished, I lose this game and it's a best of three and it's over. Um, so whether or not that's the correct decision or not, you certainly just feel less is riding on you taking a risk, and people do not like to take risks. People are risk averse by nature, in these types of games. So people aren't just going to throw their entire tournament on the line for a single thing. But in a best of seven, those thoughts are coming out a little bit different.
Yeah, I mean, I will say Killswitch and I very similar in the way that we like to approach things, very value oriented, very maths, very focused on trading. I know why you didn't do it, but the mind game now is you've got to clear that from your head, not think about it. We can analyze it. We get to sit here in comfort and talk about it. As a player, the first thing you've got to do if you're out there and you're currently trying for the World Championships, you've got to learn to clear your head after a result like that. And part of it is, hey, it just happened.
Exactly.
You
Now,
can't see your opponent's hand.
we will do our first giveaway draw. So, exclamation mark giveaway if you haven't entered it already. Um,
Do it.
and again, make sure everybody, if you're entering the giveaway, make sure your Twitch whispers are open. And if you think they're open, double check, because that is how I'm going to be giving it to you. And the winner of the Twitch giveaway is BPSF Tom. So yes, BPSF Tom, you have won the first giveaway, so 150 gold will be headed your way shortly after the stream. But let's get into game two and see where this is headed. I will let the players know.
Love it. It's going to be very cool. Let's see what we've got.
Now, as we wait for the players to load up into game two, I get to ask you the question every single cards caster hates to get. What deck do you think they bring in this situation?
If I'm Bubbles, I might, having a win on behind me, I'm going to bring either Japan or Germany, and I'm going to keep my front line. There we go. And I would have called Kill Switch wrong, but there you go.
Yeah, saved by the bell. It's going to be a Japan mirror, but once again, I keep saying this throughout, particularly the Pauper weeks, it feels like. This is two very, very different Japanese decks. Killswitch with his 39 aggressive Japanese cards,
Yeah.
whereas on the other side, you have Innocent Bubbles on the top, who's going to be playing his Japan-France control list, which is just going to be trying to slow down the game, heal with Call to the Colonies, throw out a bunch of guards, some of these naval operations, to try to stop the game from getting out of hand too quickly. And if we look, man, I would much rather have Killswitch's hand right here.
Oh, Bubbles, my friend, I feel for you. Oh, that's so painful. I mean, oh, I don't like that at all. That's a horrible opening hand, and Kill Switch is gonna feel good if he can get the thing is this deck is of Kill Switches is so fast. That 51st recon, you don't want to see that like a zero op cost 2/2 now in your face, and you're just like, where is my answer? It's a good start, but he just top decks another one.
Yeah, there's the Ryusei can come down and get this one-for-one trade, and it forces the cavalry to not attack face, but it means that this howitzer is just going to come down to immediately die. He's likely instead going to go
Yeah,
for the 61st. Fits the curve
yeah.
better, has a guard.
Oh, yes. Oh no. Yeah, but now the draw, top decking. The draw is huge. Draw first. Clinical stuff.
Oh no.
Oh, that no. That's not a hand you ever want to see.
So, for those who are not familiar, the 24th Cavalry Regiment, which is the card that Killswitch has 3 copies of in his hand right now, has Destruction, draw a 24th Cavalry Regiment from your deck. So it allows you to run 4 of them, and it will all draw themselves. So it's similar to the 32nd Chocolate Boys. So expansion into 2 32nds there, or sorry, 24ths, means that is 2 other cards in his deck he's not going to have access to. He's essentially losing 2 draws. It's as if he didn't have the expansion, and also had 1 less credit, and then also discarded a card.
Yeah, I was going to say you discard a card, lose a credit, and net -2 draws, and then you cry. But he's still in such a strong position. But I said, look out for the Reamer, and he's going to need to answer this before it goes anywhere.
Yeah, we're at the point where maybe Bubbles is starting to get over the hump of what this Jagro deck can sort of throw at you. Where he just, he played some inefficient 1-for-1s and took some damage early in the game. But now Killswitch is largely out of units in the front line and doesn't have any of those blitz tanks that you would really want to have in Jagro at this point. He could have a Shinodo here. Unfortunately, does not have one in hand. That would be one of the cards in his deck he would like to see, rather than these 2 24ths in his hand.
And it hurts so much to make this play when you can see 2 of the 24th that you can draw, but you've got to do it. He's got to remove the howitzer. He has to, surely. He can't afford to let those 2 sit, because Bubbles is just going to clear down his board.
And unlike the Soviet deck, the Covert deck, Bubbles' deck has plenty of guard units, so you can't just expect to go face. Your opponent spends a lot of time clearing the howitzers, and then you win with Heians. That's not going to happen. You do that, and another Rima's going to come down, a 61st is going to come down. So instead, he trades out one, pins the other, and if you're Innocent Bubbles here, you see that second 24th dying and no card draw happening, and in your head, your chances of winning this game, based on your own calculations, just went up like 30%.
James, quick, flip the score before chat notices. I'm lying, they've already done it. Chat, spectator mode sometimes does this to us, where it flips the player's hands. That's why it looks like Killswitch has the win from the last matchup.
Oh, that is absolutely true. That is not due to the spectator mode. That is due to me just forgetting who won the last matchup. It's been a long day, casting a lot of games. And it is fixed now. Thank you, chat. Then thank you, Bear, for that reminder. Now, looking back on the board, we see a 3rd Coastal Howitzer hit the board, as well as this Sioux Regiment. And I've never actually seen the Sioux Regiment see play before. So I'm very excited.
But it could be big here. Really big. And I want to say that call to the colonies has so much flexibility in Bubbles' hand right now. The last thing you want to see if you're Killswitch on this is Bubbles leaning back and going, I'll just have 8 more HQ defense. Keep chewing.
And we're not quite at the sabotage turn yet. Based on what Killswitch does this turn, we might see it next turn. But I would love to see that sabotage just take liberty to deny your opponent the ability to draw. So you control when the draw happens, in what board state the draw happens. However, he's probably not going to do it this turn because there's a Heian on the board.
Yeah, I was going to say, he kind of has to play the guard to just answer the Heian. It's a clean answer, and that's all you can ask for. Limit any chance of him, because he knows that, again, be aware that Bubbles knows what he's doing when he drops the Shibata. He knows that Killswitch might need to find stuff, and he knows that he's going to need to play an order for draw, and he can just, if he can get damage even passively while waiting for this deck to gas out,
and Killswitch here, maybe making a little bit of a mistake, not realizing that if he trades out the Sioux Regiment first, that's going to destroy the Type 93, which was targeted by the Sioux Regiment. And the emote confirming what we thought.
He's seen it, yeah.
That's an unfortunate reality, but it might lead to him playing out 2 cards from his hand, which will prevent a perfect sabotage turn coming out here from Bubbles, because if he had traded out the Heian, only one of these cards in his hand would have hit the board, and that means
Yeah.
that there would be 3 cards left for the Sabotage. But Sabotage, if your opponent has less than 3 cards in hand, it can't be played, and that's
Yep.
just a
Cannot
dead
play it.
card.
Yeah, that hurts. But on the other hand, Bubbles does have, some alright cards in hand. I like that Type 94 right now.
And
Not right now, but that Type 94 for the surprise attack. Go watch the history video and see why Bear was right. But is he going to go for the HQ here?
yeah, he goes for the HQ,
He's
takes
gone
the
for the
2
draw.
damage, and or so yeah, he goes for the draw, takes the 2 damage from the Shibata, and that's also going to mean he's walking into this take Liberty to give extra value.
Yeah.
And maybe this is what
Oh,
Killswitch needed to get back into this game. Although
as this could be a
Bubbles,
swing,
he could
but
suppress. He's not going to go for the suppress, and Killswitch is likely going to hold off on the take Liberty for 1 turn at least, to play out this expansion in an opportunity where he has to, or where he has an opportunity to play it. But it's going to
yeah, it's
depend a
push and
lot on
draw,
what these
right?
draws. Alright, at this point, if you're
Mm-hmm.
Killswitch, like, you don't have Commit the Reserves, you don't have Sendai Regiment, you don't have these super efficient ways to get through Rima. I mean, you could theoretically draw a double Type 94, and the Type 94 that adds the surprise attack, not the Type 94 that goes face. But we see he might trade out the Shibata Regiment first, just to avoid taking the 2 damage to the HQ. Goes for the draw, Type 93, and another expansion. That's definitely going to see play.
But oh, that's good draw. That's good. He's gonna like to. If you're kill switch, you like to see that. I've got Type 93. I've got Shibata. I've got a Blitz Infantry. I am feeling better about life, and that Type 93 will buff that Coastal Howitzer if I ever bother to put it out, and might make it vaguely useful.
He goes for the Coastal Howitzer. It is protected from the Ryusei by the Heian, but this is going
Yeah.
to allow Bubbles to play the Sabotage,
Yeah.
and we'll see which 3 cards he gets the option to. It misses the Take Liberty, so he has to pick between one of these 3 1-drops,
Yeah.
and
That hurts if you're Bubbles, but you don't know what your opponent's got.
yeah,
But if he sees that Take Liberty get played, he might rue that. But that is
that's
the risk.
that's a bit of a whiff, to be completely honest here.
Yeah.
7 credits, take 2 damage, largely accomplish nothing. Um,
I mean, I wouldn't. What did he take? The 93. I was going to say I wouldn't
yeah.
mind taking the 93. Because I can try and outreach you.
It's also
But
very important in this point to prevent Killswitch from having the Type 93, because it
yeah,
would give him some very good trading opportunities. However, not taking the Cavalry Regiment, which was probably the other thing he was thinking about, means he does not have the ability to draw with expansion this turn. So he's just
yep.
going to push up the Rima, take another 2 damage from Shibata.
I don't think he's worried about the Shibata damage right now. He's got Call to the Colonies in hand. He's now in a position where hopefully he can at some point try and find something to get Proxim expansion draw. But the big thing is that Rima sitting in the front line is not what you want to see if you're kill switch right now.
I think this is going to be the Take Liberty turn. The question is, do you trade out? Do you just go for maximum value and do Type 94 surprise attack, trade Shibata, replay Shibata, take Liberty, or do you just play the Shibata, the first Shibata, cycle that Type 94 back into your deck, and then leave yourself off with more credits to operate with following that? And it looks like he's
See,
goes for the pin.
I don't know that I actually like that play. I think I'd rather have had the extra credits to operate with what I drew, but it's solid. The pin's good, but I think I'd have done that differently. Um,
This is going to
but
leave him with the credits to attack the Ryusei, remove the mobilization from that. Unfortunately, he's
yeah,
not going to have the credits to ping it with the Out of the Mist following that. Innocent Bubbles is going to be drawn into his second Sabotage, and he could go for that, and he has the Naval Operation follow-up, but that's not going to be preventing Ryusei from hitting face. Alternatively, you can
yeah.
do Sabotage, trade the Ryusei into the Heian, and then just say, I have a 4-4 in the front line. I don't necessarily have to be worried about what's happening on the board this turn.
See, my thing is I drop the 53 guard up, then drop the Type 93 to turn it into a 3/6 guard. Oh, actually, sorry, it's 2/6, but still, that card so versatile that answers the EN.
And it looks like he
Um,
might just simply go for the Utsunomiya, and I really like this play. If that's what he ends up going for, and it looks
yeah,
like that's what we're going to see. This is a very heads-up play. He
love
said,
it.
"I played Sabotage last time. It completely whiffed. Now I'm just going to focus on board. I'm just going to focus on getting the 4-6 to the front line. I don't really care if I get to steal a card or not. I need to not die, and I need to end this game as quickly as possible."
Yeah.
Unfortunately, this is going to mean
It's a good
Ryusei
play.
doesn't get to trade with the Heian, so Heian not only sticks around, but also Out of the Mist on Ryusei. That's a pretty good option to take.
I like Out of the Mist on Ryus. I think you kind of have to. I
He
like
could.
getting Dragon Slayer down.
There's a world where he could do Out of the Mist and trade into the French unit, the 51st, and then he can take it, play it as a 1-1, and get +3 attack, and then trade into the Rima, which would be.
No. Oh, has he just? Oh, I thought he'd seen it. I would have considered maybe you could have stolen the Rima just to have the guard sit there for a bit. But I mean, no big threat. The bomber's gone. This is going to be close though. Chat, if you ever want to watch a close match that's going to swing on just a couple of plays.
And it's
Um,
there's gonna be that sabotage coming out from Bubbles next turn. It's really just there's no reason not to play it next turn. Well, I suppose the reason not to play it is the 2 damage, but you are willing to take a 2-card swing, I think, in this situation. Maybe not now that the
I think you
61st
still
is drawn. He's going for it though.
Yeah, I think you still take it because this could be huge. I mean, this is the kind of play that can swing the. Oh, he's seen the cards he wants to see. Now it's what do you want to do with it? That
Yeah,
that Dragon Slayer looks tasty.
he's hoping to find the cards he's looking for at this point. Is a cavalry regiment, just something that can trade out the
Mm.
Shinoda for 1 credit and then leave him with the 4 credits behind to just play down another guard, protect himself from a potential Heian. Unfortunately, those are not in his hand, so he will take the Shinoda, the biggest card,
So, yeah.
that he's offered here. And does he just push a 4-6 to the front line? You're feeling a little weak because this Ryusei will come down. You know it's in hand, and with the Type
Yeah.
93 attack, it will be able to take out the guard, and then the Heian would have been able to push face for
Oh,
6. So a very heads-up play from Bubbles.
yeah. I think not taking that risk again, that's the sign of a very good player who doesn't get over aggressive. Just stay calm and realize that the risk is huge. You know there's a Hien still to float into that deck and you cannot afford it. This is hard. Killswitch is gonna, I think, take his turn quite slowly here.
And the issue with Killswitch at this point is just slots in his support line. He likes Shibata in the support line. He likes Type 93 in the support line because both of these cards are offering him quite a bit of value at the moment, just being on the board. And he knows his opponent's only able to remove one of them with the Shinodo. So he also wants to get the Ryusei down, but you'd love to get the Sakura regiment down because again, it's an infantry. It's slow moving.
Yeah. I
And
don't like. I mean, if you're gonna push, I would almost rather push the 93 than the Shibata because Bubbles doesn't have a lot of HQ defense right now. That +1 attack is not. I don't know whether that's the play I'd have made, but we'll see because I think it's just gonna get removed. You just trade out and try and stay covered up, right?
yep, he's the Type 93
He-
draw, actually. That's the Type
yeah,
93 he stole from Killswitch, and then it got shuffled
yeah.
back into the deck by Take Liberty.
That's gonna be the end of that Dragon Slayer as well, right?
And he's
Has to
choosing
be,
to actually
surely.
just pin the Dragon Slayer with the Type 94
Nice.
instead.
It buys you a bit of extra time. You might be able to use the tools differently. I think that's probably actually a really smart play that I missed. Empty hand, never good, but strong board.
And just checking the text on Sakura Regiment, it is if you have fewer cards in the hand. So that is impossible to achieve at this moment. So this can't
Yep.
get 3 attack unless you can manage to kill the 61st beforehand, which
Yeah.
is possible. He could do Heian, hit the 61st, trade out the Shinodo, and then play a Shibata and say, you can't kill Dragon Slayer on board, you have 2 draws for it, go. But that's not really a play anybody feels particularly comfortable doing. So instead he's going to get
No,
the Heian on board, take out the Type 93, and say you have 1 draw.
both players, empty hands, draw for Bubbles, but this is huge.
It's expansion, but he doesn't want to play it because if he plays it and whiffs, he dies on board. So he holds
Yep.
it in hand.
100%. Again, massively heads up play. If you're watching chat, you want to learn important things, thinking and understanding that that's what would have happened. Oh, you don't want to see a second one. That's
Oh
very. I
no.
think that's game. It's game,
I mean, he can
surely.
trade out Dragon Slayer, and the Shibatas aren't
But
pushing immediate damage face, so he can stay alive a turn, and if he draws into a Rima, um,
oh
51st
no,
is excellent.
51 would do it.
And honestly,
Sorry, chat.
do you,
Sorry, chat. If we're talking over each other, I think we're both quite animated by this one.
yeah, do you guard or do you push up? Because if you guard, you protect yourself from Heian, obviously. If you push up, you
Yeah.
stop Killswitch from drawing into his expansions. Um,
Yeah, I'm not sure that I wouldn't have at this point taken the risk to push up because you also give yourself the chance to find something to answer those Shibata because they're so problematic right now.
61st
Because
draw,
those
that's one of the best cards in his deck he can pick up.
Yep. Oh, this is so good. Love the emote, love the mind games. I know some people don't, and if you get tilted, you can turn it off, but that is value in competition. Just needle your opponent, get in their head.
Oh,
Little conversation after the tackle.
I would have loved to see him keep the Shibata. Another unit pickup
Yeah,
from Bubbles is what he wants to see. This will keep the 61st out of the front line, leaving expansion
yeah,
draw as an option, while keeping the other Shibata protected. And at this point, if you kill
yeah.
switch, you know your opponent has 2 orders in hand.
Yeah, you don't need Killswitch is smart enough that he could tell you Bubbles' hand with no help whatsoever right now. He's seen it for long enough.
Another Shibata pickup means he can trade out the 51st, while continuing to stop Bubbles from playing orders of his own. And that's also going to
But he's
mean that one of the guards is dead, so Bubbles can't push 61st now to threaten the
yeah.
Shibata without risking dying to the Heian draws, which still threaten. And does Bubbles know this interaction? If he plays Call to the Colonies, he does die. The damage
Yeah,
happens before the order resolves.
Bubbles, your fellow Brit is praying for you here. Please have come across this because I've seen this catch players out.
He pushes up, but that is going to be answered immediately by the Sakura, so you're not even
Yeah,
necessarily threatening to kill it this turn, but he's hoping he draws a Ryusei. I believe he has at least one more of those in his deck.
I think he's just got two more in there. I'm just looking. But yeah, I mean, they're sitting. That is such a bad hand if you're Bubbles. 4 cards you cannot play because Bubbles. If chat is looking at this, you cannot play
And
an order.
this
Shibata is on
is
board. If he
this is
plays an order, he's gonna die.
is this just game if he doesn't draw Rima? Shibata,
Yep,
that's just game over.
it's over.
He
It's done.
needed to draw the guard there. Unfortunately, he
Yeah,
doesn't go for it.
and chat, he's not misplaying. He's just going out with a bang. He knows the interaction. Yeah. Oh, that was spicy.
That was an incredible game. That was one of those games that really keeps you on the edge of your feet, and it also is going to tie up this series again, 1-1. So that is Killswitch getting on the board. This is not just going to be a sweep. Um, I mean, I don't think anybody thought it was going to be a sweep, knowing these players, looking at the deck lists. But I mean, it feels good to get on the board if you're Killswitch. And if you had lost that game, if Killswitch lost that game, losing on Jagro, twice in
Yeah.
a row feels bad. But now, it's equaled out. We talk a lot about confidence levels in
Yeah.
this, and like how much momentum can play a factor in a set this long. So just 1-1. Bubbles felt like he was in it. He probably feels good about his deck. You're not necessarily upset. You're not about losing to Jagro. It's a strong deck that happens sometimes, and it will perform better against other decks.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. One of the things that I will say, and I talk about this endlessly, is it is possible to play perfectly and lose. Bubbles, I don't think, can be accused of misplays. It's just the way it came out. That is big. I will also say, I'm not sure whether they've had a conversation that I've not been privy to, but I feel like you and I are being punished for the elongated intro by really fast playing, very intelligent players. There's a lot of catch up while we're trying to keep up with this.
Yeah, I mean that is it's sort of it's very fun to see the personalities of different players sort
Yeah.
of through just their gameplay. Like we don't see their faces, we don't hear them speaking now, but you can get a sense of who they are as a player, but just by watching them play, what they're doing when it's not their turn. Are they hovering over cards? How fast are they playing? Are they making certain moves faster than others? Like, are they pushing things to the front line immediately and then thinking? Do they trade before playing orders? That type of stuff. And yeah, I mean, both of these players are feeling confident in their decks, and they're feeling like, you know what, they just want to get this over with. They just want to like get into the games, and just like get into the games, try out their decks, play these different matches. They're not sitting around here, and we won't keep them sitting around here too much longer, but we will do another giveaway draw here before getting into the next game. So exclamation mark giveaway if you haven't already, and let's draw another winner, and it's going to be Diamond Trooper. So Diamond Trooper, congratulations, you have won 150 gold, which you will be getting in the form of a code you can redeem at some point the after the stream, and I will let the players know that they can head into game 3.
Fantastic, going to be really good. Congratulations. And yeah, if you typed it once, you're entered for the whole thing. But if you haven't typed it once, get exclamation point giveaway in there, because there's going to be some 300 gold later on too.
All right.
I'm not sure who J King had to throttle quietly at 1939 HQ to get these giveaways, but get them while they're good.
Yeah, there was intense bargaining that went down, guys. I really went in there representing the people of the cards community and said I will accept nothing less than 10 giveaways per stream, and that's what we got.
It's legit. We are for the people, and now we're for the game.
All right, spectator mode has told us that it is ready to go, and let's switch over to
Plus
the
side,
mulligan
we can't
screen.
get the numbers wrong.
It is 1-1,
All right.
and Bubbles is just going to run it back. So we saw Killswitch run it back on his Japan deck after he lost game 1. Bubbles is just going to run it back on Japan-France, and now it is going to be matched into the German-Finland from Killswitch here.
Love this call psychologically from Killswitch on going to this clean, strong meta deck that he's just tweaked a bit that's really solid. I love this as a call. Be in your comfort zone and just trust that you can carry that momentum from the last game. And it does. I can talk about it endlessly, guys. The mind game matters. Bubbles again, though. Oh, it's not really the hand you want to see.
Yeah, I mean, with just how awkward this deck feels in the first 3 turns, you don't run necessarily a ton of 1-drops. I guess you're looking for the Shibatas early, but they're not going to be super high impact. But the naval operation pickup is going to be huge, especially with that surprise attack in hand now. And Finn Hines is a very interesting deck because it's not fast at all until it is. Which
I love that summary. Yeah, it's like this feels really, really clunky. Oh wait, I can't wait. No, I'm still going.
Yeah, they basically they just play some tiny units. They have op cost. They're not trading. They're just playing these tiny little tanks in their support line. And then on turn 4, they do an 8-credit turn, and just completely blow you off the board.
And there's the big Vesp play. Again, that Vesp has got such incredible value, and I love the emote at the end of playing it. Killswitch saying, I know the value that this arty's got. And removing the arty, absolutely the play for Bubbles there. I love to see that. Very simple, very tactical. Just play your outs, understand what the big threat on the board is. Oh, a little bit of return too. Loving a little bit of niggle between the players in the best possible way.
And
Killswitch going wide here.
I think that's the strategy here. Innocent Bubbles only has those 2 naval operations as the AoEs, and their AoE pins more so than their AoE damage, because those 1 damage is not going to deal much to the high health, the high base health on these tanks, on top of the additional health provided by Lotus Fard. Now, the one thing Bubbles has going for him is Killswitch has yet to pick up a Panzer Grenadiers that will buff the attack of these tanks, so the attack value remains low, and now there's a Coastal Howitzer on the board, which cannot be traded out at the moment.
Oh,
Actually,
it
that is
can.
not true. It can. It
But
can if
that
killswitch sees it.
T26 called it out earlier on. That T26 is huge because that T26 has +2 attack against anything with higher attack. Bubbles can trade this out, and Killswitch can trade this out, and he's going to. That's what that T26 is all about doing. That up trade is going to be so devastating. Love this play of the Lotta, by the way.
It does have to get through this guard first, though. He decides that he's
Yeah,
just going to drop the Flampanzer, play for Boyd, and I
nice.
really love this. He could have played the Flak from hand just as a 1-2 blitz to get through, trade out the Howitzer, but he's saying, you know what? All of the big cards in your deck, the cards that prevent me from going face with these tanks, cost 4 or 5, which means you have to choose between playing them or attacking with the Coastal Howitzer. You attack with the Coastal Howitzer, what are you going to do? You kill the Flampanzer, I trade out the T-26 for free. You kill the T-26, I
Yeah,
trade out Flampanzer, the rest of my units operate for free, so I don't really care spending 4 credits on the Flampanzer. And Bubbles goes for the trade in the Flampanzer, floats 3 credits. Killswitch is probably just double checking that there's not any countermeasures he's unaware of.
yep. I would be, but I mean, he knows where he's at with this. And yeah, legitimately, like he bounces the Howitzer, which I actually like over the trade because he's saying to Bubbles, "I'm going to jam up your hand and make you spend credits."
And
Bubbles has to pop it back out.
yeah, another Lotusfied pickup. Not necessarily huge immediately this turn, but it will prevent another naval operation from picking off all of these units. Here you see Killswitch trying to figure out exactly how he's trading. He's probably thinking through the different lines he has here. Just thinking about, okay, if this attacks, it deals this much damage, this deals this much damage, how many credits will I have remaining? And Killswitch is firmly in the camp of draw first, so he goes for the
Yep.
38T. And now he's deciding whether or not he wants to drop another Lotus Fired or not. I would like to see the Lotus Fired here this turn. Um,
Yeah, I think do you whether you push up or not is debatable. I kind of do. I think you could also drop one of the flak, but I think you push up, you play Lotta, you can trade out beautifully with what's on board because the T26 takes out 3 points of the guard, then you trade out any 1 point you don't care. Or you just like the Lotta gives you more options. I would have loved to have seen the Lotta, but I get the logic. He's seeing the lines. Bubbles is in trouble here.
he's looking for the second copy of Naval Operation, and he finds it, and because the Lotus Fight wasn't played, that will kill the Stug and Panzer
Yeah,
IV, which otherwise would have stuck around.
it's why I wanted to see the Lotta.
Yeah, but, I mean, I don't know if that mistake from Killswitch is going to be enough to change the outcome of this game, because look at Bubbles'
No,
health, he's on
but it's
9.
yeah, but I mean he's got Call to the Colonies in hand and the credits to play it, and this is fast, but he's this is again they're gonna push us close on this one, and again they're playing
Yeah.
very quickly.
The issue is,
Um,
Bubbles just doesn't have a way of, from this point on, the only way Bubbles has to remove these units is with unit-to-unit trading, and he runs
yep.
the Ryusei is the only unit in his deck with Blitz. So this is just simply not going to be fast enough by the looks of it. He's probably going to go for 61st Rima, play down 10 health with of guard. Um,
Has to, yeah.
he's going to take the Shibata trade and instead drop a 51st for another 2-6.
Yeah. Still anything that he can do to try and do it, because like you say, that what he doesn't want to see right now is 33 Panzergran, because 33 Panzergran is devastating right now. Thankfully we're not there yet, but this pushback is also huge. He's making Bubbles work for it, and this Jerfin Hines, in whatever form you play it, it feels an awful lot like river swimming. If you've ever been river swimming, it starts out very easy, and then towards the end of it, you start to seriously feel that tidal pushback, and it just won't stop.
Here we see the Lotus Fired coming out from Killswitch. A little bit of a sequencing error. He could have gotten the T26 on the board if he had played Lotus Fired first. And honestly, T26 on the board could mean a great deal going into the following turn, but all 3 Panzer IVs, he didn't find the Panzer Grenadier, which he would have loved to have, but all 3 Panzer IVs, definitely cards that you were happy to see in this.
I mean, Bubbles is just on a clock right now because he knows he's getting closer and closer to that Panzergrands.
And I believe this is just game.
Yeah, there's nothing he can do. He cannot do anything because, like I said, this just becomes this rolling tide. It's wide. You don't have the trading. If you can't contain Jerfin Hines early, it's game unless you've got AoE, and AoE is not something you're going to see a lot of in Pauper.
Yeah, this just simply feels like a case of Bubbles just feels like he's playing a good draft deck. Killswitch feels like he's playing a ladder deck.
Yeah, it really does at this point. Like Bubbles has got good value, good cards, but yeah, he knows it. He knows where he's at. It's just over.
The
Um,
the third
I'd
Panzer
love to
Four
see.
comes in. Sorry, what were you
Again,
gonna
I
say?
will say that is kill switch to a T. That is incredibly clinical. The way he won that game was just very dutifully, very carefully played. Think out your lines, know where they go, and don't let up on your opponent because that's what he did. He did not let up on Bubbles, even when it might have felt like he could have gone a bit slower to get a later advantage. He's like, nope, I know what I'm doing. I'm going wide. You can't answer wide.
Exactly, and we see Killswitch now winning 2 games in a row. He ran the Japan right back, and then he went into the Jofin Hines. I wonder if Killswitch. It feels like Killswitch might just be playing his decks in the order of how comfortable he feels on them, because he knows that
Yeah.
you should try to win as many games as possible. So just play the decks in the order that
Yeah.
you feel that they were the best in. That you're the most confident in your ability to play them. I think if we didn't see U.S. German banned, we probably would have seen U.S. German played until it gets a win, then the Japan deck, then the Jofin deck. So
Yeah. 100%.
yeah, he's through on his two. I mean, like his two more standard decks, and then his. I mean, self
I'd
damage is
like
also
to.
very standard. But
Yeah, but right now, honestly, I'd love to see Kill Switch on the back of those 2 wins, pull that Britsove Spitfire tribal deck, and just say, right now let's go for the fire. Let's really try and make the pressure hit Bubbles because it's such a hard deck to answer. But also, it means that critically, that next game he's going to have access to that self damage list, and that self damage list is one he's going to be super comfortable on.
exactly, I also think if Bubbles runs it back with Japan a third game in a row here, and it's into Spitfire, I think Spitfire's got to be heavily favored. There's just simply not the removal
It's
tools.
like an 80% plus win rate. I'm sorry, but it just is. It's insane. The matchup's just so bad.
I guess it's
And Bubbles,
if Bubbles can get down a turn 3 coastal howitzer going first to prevent ground crews from ever touching the board, and can then slow Killswitch's deck down quite a bit into a Rima to start giving mobilize that Bubble or Killswitch's deck can't interact with a lot. There's a path to victory there, but if Killswitch just goes
I'm
first with
sure,
a
but
ground crew, it's over.
yeah, sure, but I mean, come on. There's something about if wishes for fishes would all live in an aquarium there. I mean, that's an awful lot of ifs to stack together for your one path to victory. I agree with you 100%, by the way. But that's why it's an 80% plus win rate, which is again why I'd like to see Killswitch make that call.
Now, if you're Bubbles, you will be thinking, well, my opponent's on 2 decks, and he's more comfortable in self damage, but bringing in a deck twice in a row, that's a pattern. That's something Killswitch is going to start thinking about. If Killswitch in the previous game probably wasn't necessarily thinking, oh, I'm confident Bubbles is going to bring Japan fans again into game number 3. But now, game number 4, you're feeling a lot more confident that Bubbles is just going to run this until it wins. And if that's the
Yeah.
case, then your Killswitch is thinking about Spitfire. So if you're Bubbles, maybe you're aware of this. If you're thinking like 4
Yeah.
levels
I'd like
deep,
I'd like to think that if Bubbles is aware of it, and I know he can be, he's a very, very smart man, that he would consider running that Italy combined arms deck and just trying to put out like big, heavy buffed bodies, which are about his best bet. I'm not gonna lie, of answering those huge Spitfires is just chosty weight that comes quickly, because otherwise I don't know how you answer it. I don't think you can answer it with the US German front line. I don't think it's fast enough. Um, Value trade or not, I just don't think it's quick enough. I think it's going to get outvalued by those Spitfires and the guards that they can proc with the Poland Spitfire, I think. But yeah, I think kill switch for me, if it was me, I'd drop the Spitfire and go, right, I want to really grab hold of this.
Yeah.
and just put the pressure on.
We spoke about this a lot yesterday, where in best of sevens, it's really the game four that becomes the most crucial game. Because obviously, if a player's up 3-0, game four could just be the last game of the series. But the most common outcome is going to be somebody's up 2-1, which means in game four, either the series gets tied at 2-2, and it just heads into essentially what is a best of three, or somebody takes a 3-1 lead and gets 3 attempts at victory, which is incredible. That's one game difference between a best of three and being down 2 games in a best of five is an incredibly big difference for a single game. And that's what we're seeing here. If killswitch can get a win here, he will be up 3-1 in the series. And we have yet to see a 3-1 lead by anybody across the 3 matches we've seen already. So before we get into that crucial game four, we will do 2 giveaways. And following that crucial game four, we will do a big giveaway to celebrate whatever the outcome of that game is. So for now, Ahmed the Edgelord, you have won the 150 gold giveaway, and Spellbreaker77, you have also won an 150 gold giveaway. Both you guys, I know you've been around watching these streams every single day, so big thanks to you, and congratulations again for winning some of these giveaways. Now, let's get the players ready.
Let's see whether we called it right, or we're both going to look like idiots.
Yeah, we're going to end up with like self-damage versus US-German frontline or something completely different.
I mean, in fairness, not like either of us is not familiar with the concept of looking like an idiot on video, but we try not to.
Yeah. And here we are going into the games, and I'm seeing US coming out from Bubbles, and it is the Spitfire from Killswitch. So Spitfire, Killswitch seemed to have thought, I don't know if it was necessarily a trap or not, but it seems like he most likely had that train of thought of, my opponent brings Japan France again. That's the deck that Spitfire is probably best into. I'm going to bring Spitfire. Whereas Killswitch or Innocent Bubbles might have had the reverse thought of, my opponent's likely to bring Spitfire, so I'm going to switch things up, play a faster deck, just try to get back on the scoreboard and even this out.
Mulligan-wise, right now, I like keeping the emergency measures, the Spitfire, and the supply shortage if I'm Killswitch. I think this deck is not going to rip at you super fast because of the way Bubbles has built it. Killswitch is going to have read this list. That Spitfire Mark V, the Polish Mark V, is huge if you can get it onto a RAF ground crew. I said it before, and I'll keep saying it. It can be a swing. Sup shortage, I know he's going backwards and forwards. I can see a reason to pitch it just to see if you can get better, but I love the keep. Shame to draw 2 of them back, but we'll see where we go. Bubbles has got a decent hand, though.
Yeah, it's a strong start, and you can see immediately slams the Jaeger. He knows.
Yeah, I mean,
like, I need the 35T proc on turn 2. I don't care about the possibility of drawing another card in the future. This game is not going to be determined by me drawing cards.
No. I mean, again, if you're looking for tips while you're watching this and you play a lot of frontline, learning the value of when you care about the Jaeger draw is massive. Ground crew coming down, that's good to see, obviously. But he's gonna... Yeah, Bubbles wants to get that off the board. He knows what the idea is.
If you're Killswitch at this point, do you just play a second ground crew and pray that you top deck of Spitfire?
No, Killswitch does exactly what I do and says, yeah, great, you've got an early start, but you can get some damage to HQ or remove the ground crew, but I'm going to take the early start away from you. Of course, he doesn't then love to see the Rangers, but that's okay. Turn 5, he can look for Glamour Boys, so I draw right now if I'm Killswitch.
And another ground crew is not really what you want to be seeing at this point in the game, where you have one Spitfire and the emergency measures in hand. And Bubbles picking up the half track, that's going to be crucial for this matchup because it's cheap enough that it can come out, it bounces the Spitfire, but also leaves you with the credits to operate your other units. And the 5th Ranger's in the front line operating for free. I mean, Killswitch at this point just needs to stall until he can potentially try to get a big monster.
Some of the best stall tools in the game in hand. Pair of Glamour Boys, 2 supply shortage. He can stall for a while, but I do agree with you. The problem with Glamour Boys is that your 6 bounces right now, if your Bubbles, are not helping you. You don't like to do it, but you have to.
Yeah.
Because you've got to get the HQ damage, and you've got to hope you can do it fast enough, and that he's not just going to keep spamming and regaining HQ defense. I think I like that he stalled and is thinking about this. I don't think he's kind of got a choice, though. I think you've got to play the Glamour Boys, right?
Yeah, but it's good to make your opponent think that you have options. Even if you have
Yeah.
absolutely no options, it's good that your opponent thinks you have options. And the more Bubbles plays these retreat cards on the Glamour Boys, this is going to prevent card draw. And Killswitch doesn't have the Monsoon in his hand. I believe he's only running one copy of the card in his deck, if I recall correctly. Yeah, there's only one Monsoon Rot in the list.
Don't
Um,
want to call it too early, but those two bounces, even though, like, if you look at the HQ total chat, the Bubbles has come out ahead of the game, and those could be close to game because right now, if you're Kill Switch, you're looking at this going, I do not like the options in my hand. I don't like any of them.
and I mean, if you're gonna have a guard bounced over and over and over, Glamour Boys is probably the best guard in the game that you could have that happen to you for. Um, but I mean, it's just
Yeah. Oh, we're going to go for double ground crew, put the Spitfire for the guard. Yeah, I like this. You've got to take the guard. No?
he's
Surely
deciding
he.
which unit he
I
wants to
see. I
guard.
see. He's changing positioning. Yeah,
But
I get that.
does that actually change the math? It keeps him alive on board. Bubbles is
I think
simply
it
just going to
buys
drop a
him.
list regiment.
Yeah, I think he's going to buys. Oh, the half track could be huge. I was going to say it buys him a
Yeah,
turn,
the
but
half track is
not with
just
the half
lethal.
track. Yeah,
Half track allows him to just end the game. List regiment would have allowed him to put 9 into the HQ of Kill Switch. Half track buys him the game. And that is just going to be a very, very rapid game for with Innocent Bubbles
yeah.
taking it, tying up the series, and for what I believe is the fourth time in 4 matches, we are headed into a game 5 tied up 2-2.
Yep. It's insane. It's so good to see. But yeah, I mean that was again. I go back to Bubbles playing very clean, using those bounces, not being afraid. He saw the maths on the board. I know Bubbles is very good at doing maths very quickly, and he knows he can come out ahead. So bounce the Glamour Boys, bounce the Glamour Boys, make your opponent shock upon cards, but also have to spend credits he doesn't want to. And it worked. And honestly, I'm impressed that Bubbles got that win against the Spitfire deck. Killswitch did get a terrible first 3 draws. I will say.
I have to I will give you Killswitch had a very bad hand. I do think that maybe Bubbles' list is more favored in that matchup. Um just because the sheer power of bounce, I have bounce used to be much more prolific in cards. I think, and I know as a player, I drastically undervalued how powerful retreat was as a mechanic when I first started playing the game, and I suspect that the developers also undervalued it as a mechanic when they created the core set of this cards or of this game, because many cards that say retreat or return to hand on them have since been reworded, and very few new cards of that variety have been added to the game. And this is sort of why, because you hit just a critical mass of just keeping your opponent stuck in the support line. You play a card, they retreat it, and go face. You replay the card, they retreat it again, and go face. And just if the retreat cards are more efficient than the cards you're playing, it just simply allows you to get a crushing position on board and continue to deal chip damage to the face through several the same Glamour Boy being replayed several times.
Yeah, I mean, someone once asked me, like, breaking down the maths of the actual value of cards and getting the thing is what are some of the harder things to value? And honestly, I think retreat is an incredibly hard thing to properly value on a card because it is so I'm not going to say abusable, but very efficiently usable if you know what you're doing.
Yeah, it's just such a punishing mechanic, and like, I mean, I remember in the 2021 the 2020 World Championships, I had a Soviet control deck that I'd been bringing to multiple OCCs. It had been performing really well. I felt it was my best deck in the game. And I went into the top 16 feeling all high and mighty, thinking, like, I'm just going to, like, breeze my way into the top 4. Who's this guy I'm going up against? Fenrir. Who's ever even heard of him? And then, you know what? He brought L640. I'm like, L640? Nobody plays L640. That's a joke deck. And Soviet control versus L640. He does L640, does supply shipment. Okay, that's the normal thing the deck does. Well, now I'm just going to play really powerful guards every turn for the rest of the game. Well, what do I know? He retreated my first rifles on turn 4, and then on turn 5, and then on turn 6, and then I played an armored train, and he retreated that on turn 7, and then on turn 8, and then he won the game. Because just if I'm playing one big card a turn, and he's just retreating it for 2 credits and hitting me in the face for 4 damage, he's just going to win the game very quickly. And that's what happened. And that's what Bubbles was doing with this deck. Just retreat is an incredibly powerful effect if your opponent doesn't have efficient removal pieces for the units that come down with the retreat effect, or efficient board clears to punish your opponent going wide. It's just very difficult to answer that continued pressure.
Yeah, 100%. It's so cost ineffective when you're on the receiving end of it. You just kind of want to cry quietly in a corner as you spend more credits on the same unit for like the 4th time.
And it's funny because speaking of it being hard to balance, on the flip side, you can be situations where, particularly if it's a order that returns a unit to hand, where you'll just have games where it's like, okay, I could return it to hand, and then what? They just replay it, and then I lose the game. I don't have an answer to it. Does it actually answer it? You have to use retreat in combination with having board control. You can't just simply use retreat as a means of ignoring a unit, because if you aren't putting threats on the board, if you aren't forcing your opponent to now answer you rather than you having to answer them, retreat can just be a pretty bad, just a worse form of removal in certain situations. But Bubbles built his deck around being the one in control of the front line, being the one in control of the tempo of the match, and therefore being able to exploit the power of retreat as a mechanic. Now, before we get into the game 5 and see who will get the first match point of this match, let's do the promised big giveaway of 300 gold. That's 2 draft runs. That's nearly an officer's pack. That is a blitz tournament and a half, however you want to spend it. And the winner of the first big giveaway of this stream is Don't Tread on Me. So, Don't Tread on Me, congratulations on winning the 300 gold. I know this will go to help you fill out your collection. And playing more of your wacky decks on pretty high on ladder. So congratulations. Put that announcement in the chat, and we will continue to do giveaways after the following matches as well. So if you haven't joined already, exclamation mark giveaway in chat. So I will now let the players know that we are ready for game 5.
Yep, strap in, chat. I have a feeling this is gonna be exciting and might go long.
Yeah, we've seen with the US-German decks. Okay, US-German banned from killswitch. It's now through on Bubbles. Those are sort of the standard decks that we see. Jagro through for killswitch. Jerfin Hines, another somewhat standard deck, through for killswitch. What we're left here, there's the self-damage from killswitch, and then the remaining decks are quite a bit interesting. And it is going to be self-damage into the Jur Italy. And, I mean, if you're Jur Italy, I feel like this is not a matchup you're happy to see as Innocent Bubbles.
No, I want to see any other list, please. If I'm Bubbles right now, this is this Jur Italy list is good, but this is going to be a struggle. You can see, I think he's likely pitching most, if not all, of his opening hand. Meanwhile, Killswitch, I think, is seeing a Red Dawn and the 2/2, whose name I forget and I can't see properly on screen. The 94th, right?
95th? Yeah, 95th Rifle Regiment. And, I mean, I kind of would have liked to see Innocent Bubbles maybe keep the Savoya, not to play on turn 1, but just keep it in hand to trigger with a Combined Arms draw to blitz out something, or to trigger with a Trop on turn 5. I would have liked to maybe see the Trop keep. Because my question is, if you're not keeping Vespe, you're not keeping Trop, you're not keeping Sway, and you're not keeping Savoya, what cards are you looking to keep? Like, what cards do you want to find in your deck? And I guess the answer is this Panzer Grenadiers, the 3/3 Panzer Grenadiers, coming down on turn 2, and this is going to put up a body that goes toe-to-toe with ESU.
What he was digging for was a body that might actually be able to trade into it. I want to say, though, call out to Killswitch. I really like the aggression of that early play of the Red Dawn to say, no, you're not going to get tempo on me. I know I can outvalue you.
And as a result of that, Innocent Bubbles is not going to have the op cost reduced on either of these Panzer Grenadiers.
Yeah, that really hurts. Arctic Convoy right now, I mean, that's kill switch. Now, this psychologically that matters because that kill switch feels comfortable enough to just sit and draw there. You don't like to see that. That's good use of Breakthrough. Breakthrough, such an underrated card. I'm starting to see more of it in play, but it's so strong.
If I'm kill switch here, I'm. Oh, you want to kill a 3/3 so bad.
You really do.
But looking at Bubbles' hand, he will get punished so quickly if he does not remove the tank from the board.
Yep. I know you want the 3/3, but he can't see
No.
the hand. There's no way he could have seen it, and we have to remember that. But this is going to hurt.
And this is most likely just going to be GG, not on this immediate turn, but on the following turn, because Killswitch has no way to answer what is going to become an absolutely massive tank, and he's at 7 health with no guards in hand and no removal in hand.
If he pops the artillery, this becomes what? +3/+3. So he's now what, 4/5, and then he could go to 11 next turn. What do you do? And he's got on tap suppression.
I think you have to trade push. No, but you don't even. You have to trade with the 456th, and then play at all costs on the 2/2. Hope to get the 0 op BT, and then play combined arms to make a 4/3 and trade out swag while presenting a threat in the front line that is going to stop this tank from doing anything, and you're maintaining the guard. That is basically the only way he has to win this game. He's going to start with the stand together. He hits the BT.
Ooh, that's huge. That buys him the chance to maybe live just that little bit longer. Because otherwise, what do you do? Now, if Bubbles top decks 101, nope, it's gone. It's got the swag cleared good. He's smart enough to have seen it. I like the guard here. I did call out the Fulgore as being important for when that tempo swing lands. I would love to see the trop right now.
Yeah.
I would love to see that 6/6 body come down and say, all right, that was cute. Now answer me.
And actually, something I just realized is it didn't have to be the BT. The BT definitely helped in this situation, but he would have been able to remove the swag regardless because of the single copy of at all costs. But that's not the card you want to be getting. It means you're not getting KV this game, and you're not dead to trop. You're not dead on board. But I mean,
yeah, but this hurts.
Do you just have to take a ton of risk here and just play SU?
I think you have to, because I know what we're asking, of course, is the damage that the SU is going to do to HQ, but is that going to matter in the greater scheme of things? And I'm not sure it is if you can't find an answer. And remember, Killswitch cannot see Bubbles' hand. He's probably got a pretty good idea there's at least one combined arms in, because if he's a good player, and I know he is, he's been watching which cards come out and which ones linger.
He needs to play this counter-offensive before playing the SU, or it will repair back to full health.
Oh!
He misses out on a +2/+1, which is 2 damage face, and in the grand scheme of things, probably not a ton. It still trades 1-for-1 with the Fulgore, whether it's a 4/2 or a 6/3.
Still, that's the kind of play that when you look back hurts. I like the sheer moxie of just throwing the massive combined arms onto the very underrated Italian tank.
Yeah, and, you know, he's not winning this turn, but how on earth does Killswitch answer?
I mean, what do you top deck that can possibly... I'm looking at his list. What have you got that gives you any hope here? I mean, this is so strong.
Island defense into a Sunrise Deficient, so you have a 9/9 to trade out, and then on the following turn you top deck a second Island defense, maybe something along
or you
those
could have
lines.
a pair of SUs that will just kill you.
Yep, that is just going to be game. He can trade out the 6/3, but
it's done.
There's no way to stop Trop trading 1-for-1. with the 456, which means there's no way to stop the Panzer II-C from dealing the
Yeah.
final bits of damage. Actually,
I honestly,
could have
yeah, it doesn't even.
stuck around with a single guard, like a 456 that he's not dead on
Yeah,
board, but
I mean, it's so thin right now, isn't it? And ultimately, it doesn't matter what Bubbles has got in hand right now. You're just looking at the board state, and Killswitch is just running the maths to make sure he's not making any mistakes. He's probably already worked out that he's lost, but I like that he's taking the time. He knows it's game. He's run 100 scenarios. This is Doctor Strange in the Marvel movies, seeing all the futures, and he knows that he doesn't get to hold up a finger. There is no win here.
and that is a huge win coming in here for Bubbles.
It's
This
massive. I would not have expected Bubbles to win this. I know we talked about it as this started out. I don't think this was a favoured matchup at all. But I think he just played out of his skin. And it worked. And it worked beautifully. And that is a huge psychological win, too.
Yeah. I mean, the one deck he has left is Japan France, and if Killswitch wins this series, it will require sweeping Japan France. It will require beating that deck 4 consecutive times.
Yeah.
And it's possible. It's possible. The deck has seed to have its issues. It has been seed to struggle. But this was not a game you wanted to drop if you're Killswitch at all. This felt like a matchup that you probably felt favorable in. You get the win here, and then you go in with Spitfires, with 2 shots to high roll your opponent. Instead, now his back is against the wall, and it's Bubbles who has 2 shots to get across the finish line with this Japan-France control list. However, I suspect that we are going to be headed to a Game 7 here.
Oh, you and me both. I don't. I think it would be highly unlikely. It's possible, but it's highly unlikely we're not going to see Game 7. These guys are looking at their lists right now, taking a breath, going, all right, I know what I've got, and I want my good matchup, and I've just got to push it. But this is seriously close stuff and very engrossing, I have to say. I am enjoying my first time in the caster's booth. Please invite me back. Um, this stuff is just too cool.
Yeah, and maybe you'll have to host your own events in the future as well.
Not gonna lie, there might be plans.
All right, well, let's give the players a bit of a second to catch their breath here after
Yeah.
what has been a breakneck series so far. And in the meantime, let's pull another entrant for the giveaway. So the winner of this one is going to actually be none other than Red Sun, who was here with me just yesterday as a caster.
Oh, funny.
Now he is here as a giveaway winner of his very own 150 gold. So congratulations, Red Sun. It's nice to see you here back again supporting this event, whether it is up here in the casting booth or in Twitch chat as a viewer. It's really amazing to see everybody in the community come about to support this event. Not just me, but also the players as well. And I mean, show 1939 that these events deserve support. These events will draw an audience. These events are worth their time and the time of other community members who might be thinking about running their own tournaments in the future. Wink, wink. So
100%. Also, quick shout out. I just want to say, like, genuine shout out to the whole streaming and content creation tribe that we have in this community. I have rarely worked with such a cool bunch of genuinely together and helpful people, even though we're technically competing for the same audience. Like we talk all the time, we chill out all the time, we rail at each other about certain issues that companies make all the time, and the love is real.
yeah, Cards really just has an amazing community, and that's something that has been as the game has changed, as expansions and cards have come and gone, balance patches come and gone, events, tournaments, people, personalities have come and gone. The one constant is just the cards community has been amazing. I remember downloading this game in 2019, and really the thing that stuck out to me was the theme was cool, the cards were cool, the aesthetic was awesome, the mechanics were fun, but really was the community that kept me interested and engaged with this game, and that's why I'm here today. And I know 2019, I'm one of the old guard. Which is weird to think now because I remember joining in 2019 and seeing all these like alpha testers who had been playing since 2018, closed alpha. But yeah, it's I hope to continue that legacy that I've somewhat inherited from them of offering just a warm and welcoming community to the people who have started cards since I have been around. So yeah, we will let the players know.
I'm gonna be go for the game, guys.
Yep. We gave our players a quick break, but they are back and ready for Game 6, with Innocent Bubbles leading 3-2. This could be our first match that does not end in Game 7, but
Yeah.
I suspect Killswitch will be leading with his Spitfires here, hoping to just get his win. That is what we are going to be seeing as we pull up into the mulligan.
Yeah.
Britain coming out here from Killswitch, and this is already looking like a better hand.
Yeah, this is a much better starting hand. Bubbles is not loving this matchup, but he knows he's got to live with it. He has to deal with this deck.
But
I
there's that coastal howitzer, and Bubbles is going
Yep.
first.
If you turn out to have called the impossible MacGuffin ahead of time, I am calling hacks. Um, saying it now, chat. We are not on delay. J King called that one legitimately. That could be huge. If he can get the right sequencing, it's probably his best chance.
Now, Killswitch will be able to just play the turn 2 honey, and if he picks
Yeah.
up a supply shortage, the honey will probably just get thrown into the coastal howitzer for
Yep.
the possibility of killing it at some point in the future. There's also the possibility of potentially cheating out with an emergency measures. We see him picking it up, so he has the option of playing a ground crew already, but I don't think he's going to do that again because he's not under nearly as much pressure.
Yeah, he's no need to. He knows the honey's value is going to be much more in use for trade later on than it is in getting the occasional bit of HQ defense. The second coastal howitzer draw, though, that's not what Killswitch is going to want to see.
Yeah,
I like the draw. He kind of needs to, but Bubbles is drawing some very helpful cards.
yeah, Killswitch is still a turn away. I think you just play the ground crew. You have the emergency
Yeah.
measures and you have the Spitfires to back it up in the future. I think you just play the ground crew and say, how threatening is this to you?
Yeah. Also, I mean, you've got to clear something out your hand, and I think it's the thing you clear. I think you just throw it down and you say, "All right, I'm here. I'm in position. Do what you do. I've got backup if I need it." And I think Bubbles' response is probably gonna be what you'd expect it to be. I mean, there's nothing huge there, but I would like Killswitch to play the just throw the ground crow just clean.
yeah,
But
but
we'll see.
Killswitch is a slow and methodical player, so he is going to think through his options here. He's going to think, is it actually better to just simply eat the overdraw? Is this hand
Yep.
good enough? And he's just going to pass it back, which I think he's looking at the possibilities of doing ground crew and emergency measures in combination to get out two Spitfires on the same turn. But by
Yeah.
not playing it, you are giving Bubbles in a just 5 credits to do
Love
with what he wants.
Love that play from Bubbles, showing you how to use the 51E in exactly the opposite way to how he's used it previously. As a pressure tool, Killswitch has no choice. He's going to answer with the Glamour Boys. But Bubbles is oh, hello. Oh, okay. It's just got spicy.
Killswitch is
That's
just looking for
huge.
the supply shortage. You have a lot of
Yep.
Spitfires, um, and he could even use Claim the Skies to take out this Audi. This turn he could do
I
emergency
almost,
measures, play down a
I almost,
Spitfire.
yeah, I almost think he has to. And that he can't see that there's another one in Bubbles' hand, and I almost think you have to be thinking, I've got to clear that thing before I start trying to establish myself, because
Yeah.
otherwise this is going nowhere. Ground crew.
It's
Oh,
that, or I think the only other possibility he's thinking about is just the possibility of just playing a 6-cost Spitfire. And at the very least, Bubble spends 4 credits and loses the Ryusei,
Yeah.
removing it.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair. I mean, you could just hope the value holds.
Or maybe you don't need to drop the ground crew, maybe just play a 5 cost Spitfire and claim the skies on the Artie, and that's going to force a trade out from the 5/3.
Yeah.
I don't.
The other thing though is Bubbles has got to be thinking about when he's going to time this sabotage because he could take some huge cards out of Killswitch's hand.
So he's just going to drop the ground crew and the six
Yeah.
six, not to claim the sky. So Bubbles is going to have the opportunity to remove that by trading Ryusei for 4 credits, and can remove the ground crew for an additional credit with the 51st.
Yeah. I mean, it's a clean looking turn, but it's that's not what I was expecting.
He's just going to leave it on the board. Or no, he's not. He's going to trade it out. Um,
Oof.
this was, if he did it the other way, did he simply not just keep a 5/3?
Yeah, that's where I'm on. Where we have the benefit of being in the caster booth, but yeah, it's where I'm at right now. Emergency measures before anything gets out of hand. I love emergency measures into this Spitfire. I know I bang on about it, but I really do love this combination in this deck.
And
He's
Spitfire's
just
got to
thinking
come
about
out.
positioning. Yep, and now claim the skies, and this is just brutal. If you're Bubbles, now you've got to look
But
for your answers.
oh, and if Bubbles goes for something slow, like say just played a sabotage, you're gonna be offered like Spitfire, Spitfire, Lendlease, and it's
Yeah,
like, well, I don't want my opponent to refill their hand, but I also don't want my opponent to play down a 7/7 and a 6/6 next turn.
I mean, the thing you actually don't want to see if you play that right now, if you're Bubbles, can you imagine if you see a Honey, a Spitfire, and Lend-Lease, and you're like, right?
Yeah, he's got to go for the expansion, just find more draw. I don't really know what he's looking for at this point with the card draw.
No,
It's
I
one
am
credit.
wondering. I mean, obviously, he knows his deck, but I am wondering, and I'm wondering if you've got any ideas because I can't see the deck. I'm too
And
excited by the
oh,
claims
claim the
used.
skies. That's the best draw in Killswitch's deck. This will let the 7 attack go face, well answering
Yep.
the howitzer. And the Shogun's doing absolutely nothing. The Shibata's doing absolutely nothing.
So I don't mean to correct you, but it'll be more than 7 attack when it goes face. Oh no, it won't. You're right. He's Spitfire. He'll drop the Spitfire. Yeah.
Although, knowing Bubbles' list with basically no hard removal, outside of like Sue Regiment,
You just go wide here. Just say, yeah, he is. He's gone wide and he's saying, I don't care. Answer my board.
and yeah, things looked very rough for the first like 4 or 5 turns of this game. But just the sheer stats that Killswitch has
I
been
mean,
able to put onto the board.
oh, we said it at the beginning, didn't we? If this thing gets going, it's just more. Oh, love to see that. If this thing gets going, it's monstrous. It is utterly terrifying. Um,
I mean, just put the lowest attack thing
yeah, you
into the
just pop the lowest
61st,
attack
go
thing
face
into
for
the guard.
15, trade out the
Yeah,
Shogun with Wrath Ground Crew. It has served its purpose, and you even have the
yeah.
credits
I
to play
mean,
Honey.
you just sit there and go, all right, slap bang, you've got 5 HQ defense. Carry on.
Yeah, like, looking at Bubbles' hand, these Utsunomiya's doing nothing. The Ryusei would be
Yeah.
able to trade out one of these Spitfires, but the Sue Regiment has no way to be sacrificed.
Yeah, I like Killswitch just going straight aggressive here, and he's gonna do it. He's checking his lines again. He's an incredibly clinical player. This just says you haven't answered my board, and the price is 3/4 of your HQ defense.
Chooses to not trade out the Ground Crew. I don't like this choice because he knows it's Shogun. It's the
No.
only covert unit in the deck.
Is there a? Am I wrong? It is. It's the only one, right?
Yeah, this is the only covert unit in the deck. He knows it's
In
the
the deck.
5/1.
Yeah,
Taking a
I'm not a fan of that. I'm not gonna lie. I don't like that play because when you know what the covert unit is, just get rid of it. That
and,
said, I mean, Bubbles is buying himself time now, which he has to do. Um,
and
this is not a completely easy turn for Killswitch right now. He has to think about how he wants to sequence this.
Yeah, he can't hit face for 15 and Lend-Lease. He's one credit off,
No.
and he would
I mean,
absolutely
as
love to be
much
able to
as
do
you
that.
would love to, you can't quite pull the full swag and be like, yeah, I get everything.
I would have liked to see the honey come out just because your opponent doesn't have the time to deal with honey. There
Yeah, I
are
was going to say, I mean,
pressing
why not
issues.
drop the honey? Is your opponent really going to take the time to care? He has other problems. That said, Bubbles is that's a good fight back. He's given himself, but he's are we no, we're not. Okay.
I mean, at this point, just do honey, Lend-Lease, draw back to a full
Yeah.
hand, hit the
Yeah,
61st,
you,
and
you just
Sue
you just
Regiment goes
refill,
off.
sit back, and say, at some point, I'm going to get the win. Oh, claim,
Oh,
claim,
one credit
claim.
off. If he didn't play the honey, this was just lethal.
Yeah, but you can't know that. But claim is still
Yeah,
massive.
it's
But
it's the
I
only one
keep
left in the
claim.
deck.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't want to see him play the claim right now. I wouldn't mind seeing him actually throw emergency measures just to put a ground crew down to give Bubbles something else to think about. I don't think I like this. Doesn't this leave? Oh no, I suppose he could drop the Spitfire, but no, it doesn't have Blitz.
The Sioux
Okay.
Regiment did target the 7-7. So
Oh, right,
yeah,
yeah.
the 7-7 is dead regardless. This way
Yeah.
it goes down with the Sioux Regiment. Innocent Bubbles finding Remus and 61st off the top. This will let him guard up for future turns. He's rather going to go for the Sabotage, try to take the 6-6 Spitfire. Unfortunately, he is offered Convoy Supply Shortage, Claim the Skies. I guess you just take Claim the Skies to
Right, yeah.
protect.
Just because, I mean, if you know the list, you know it's his last one.
Yeah,
You just
and
deny him it.
if
Because
Killswitch, I'm just thinking back a couple of turns. If Killswitch had played the honey on that previous
yeah,
turn where he just floated the credits, he wouldn't have spent the 2 credits on that turn playing the honey,
yeah,
which means that he would have just won the game with the Claim the Skies draw.
yeah.
Bubbles
I
takes the
mean,
convoy, trying to limit hand size. That's not going to be the winning
I
strategy here.
don't know. I love Bubbles to pieces. Didn't like that play, but I mean, Glamour Boys is huge because Glamour Boys just lets you go. I can take my time. Gives him time to think now. What do I want my line to look like? But I like the Glamour Boys here because Killswitch is like, I've got nothing but time and you've only got 6 HQ defense. He's letting I love letting the honey hang out. That honey is still trickling.
All right.
I think that was a very good turn.
And I'm very happy Killswitch held on to this Claim the Skies. It would have been very easy to just drop this as, you know what, remove Shibata. I don't want this on board. And instead, he's saying, you know what, it gets through a guard. It's decently likely that you will get another guard. Killswitch takes the Lend-Lease now, but he's just simply dead. He needed to hit the Claim the Skies.
Yeah, he knows it's in hand. He needs to hit it. Yeah, he knows it. I have to say, you and I are both going to sing the same song about Shibata. Slightly different chorus, but people get too afraid of it.
And
is it OP? Yes, but hey, it's there for a reason. That was another one, and guess what, guys? Who knew?
For the 4th time in a row, 4 for 4, we are going to be going into a Game 7 here in the King's Cup. Just wow. I mean, that was a crazy game. That was a game unlike any game I have ever witnessed, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
Um,
I really struggled. I don't know about you because I know you're a yard smarter than me, but I mean, I struggled to keep pace with the sequencing on both sides. There was some really high level sequencing in that game.
Absolutely. And I mean, we called out some of the lines that the players went for that we certainly came across as suboptimal. But what's important to remember is, one, this is game 6 of a 7-game series. It is quite a grueling task. But also, number 2 is, often these things will lead into each other. Once you make a small mistake, your odds of making a big mistake skyrocket. Because suddenly you're thinking about, oh, I just made this previous mistake, and that's taking up precious resources in your head and time on your turn, thinking about that rather than thinking about what you need to be doing on this turn. And mistakes beget more mistakes. That is just how it works in card games. So I think that game turned into a bit of a scramble by both players, where the level of play maybe dropped from what we had seen in the previous 5 games leading up to that game. But I don't think they're going to let it bother them too much as we head into Game 6. Both of these players have too much experience, and particularly Bubbles being on the losing end of that previous match. I think he definitely has the experience to bounce back and say, you know what, that was a rough matchup to begin with. Maybe I didn't play that perfectly. Maybe there were things I could have done differently. But at the end of the day, he was slamming down 7/7s, and my deck doesn't really answer that. Let's just go next, go into self-damage. That is a matchup that I think maybe I have a better chance in. And does he have a better chance in it? I think so. How good is that
I
chance?
think he does.
I will let you discuss.
I think the margins in this final match are very thin. First of all, I want to shout out Karma Carter. Karma, thank you so much for giving J King the big pile of gift subs. That's super huge. Love
Oh,
1939
yes.
supporting this stuff. It's really hard for us, by the way, chat, to keep track of everything that's going on down there, everything that's going up here. J King's also operating this whole thing in the background. This is legitimately hard work. But I would say that I think the odds just slightly favour killswitch, and because I like dealing in 5%, so I'm going to call it maybe 55-45. But this is going to be tight, and please remember, it is late for these guys. I'm here in the UK. It has just gone like 10:05. If you've had a full day and you've been watching the OCCs or at work, and you've just played 6 really intensive games, knowing you're live on stream, this will wear you down.
Yeah. Yeah, this is absolutely brutal to play through. Um, I mean, yeah, it just it really takes a lot out of you. If you play cards casually, it can be sometimes difficult to understand just how much energy it actually takes to put 100% of your focus into cards or any game of this variety. Really, it is really genuinely draining. You play like a best of 5 and you finish, and you are just feeling absolutely starving. The amount of calories you burned just thinking. Um,
Like, what do I want first? Calories or sleep? Or is there a way for me to eat and sleep at the same time? Because seriously,
Yeah, if we make these tournaments any longer, we'll need the players hooked up to IV,
yeah,
as they're
I
playing.
will say yeah. And it is like midnight for Killswitch because he's in Turkey, so
Yeah. So yeah, huge shout out to our players. We won't keep them waiting too much longer, but let's do a regular giveaway and a big giveaway to hype people up for what is going to be our 4th Game 7. So the regular giveaway is going to be going to Acaranza Juan Bautista. You won yesterday. Congratulations, you have won again. I will be contacting you after the stream. And the big giveaway will be going to Cursed. So Cursed, I know he's been hanging around all of these streams. He's been hanging around my
love to
streams for a
see
long
that.
time. And he will be getting rewarded for hanging around these streams for so long with a 300 gold prize from the giveaway. So congratulations to those winners. Let's get the players ready for Game 7.
Yep, amazing. And yeah, love to see that. Cursed, always top of the line, one of the first up there to be cheering in chat. So love to see that too. Congratulations to all of the winners. I am so hyped for this Game 7.
And here we go. There's no question on what decks they're going to be. It's going to be self-damage versus Japan-France control for all the marbles.
Bubbles seeing yet another coastal howitzer because it just loves him. Self-damage, not a great opening hand. I'm not sure I wouldn't want to maybe keep the sickle, but there's not that many good targets in Bubbles' deck, to be fair, but you can proc it on some of your own stuff. The rest of it I'm kind of pitching, but Killswitch notably very, very careful and considered with his mulligan here.
The thing he's worried about is Shibata Regiment. If your opponent just
Yep.
starts with turn 1 Shibata into turn 2 Shibata, suddenly you are drastically limited on what you're able to do with your deck before your opponent might just straight up kill you with, because you're damaging yourself, and Shibata is going to drastically ramp up the amount of damage you're taking, which can snowball some of your effects like 456th, but they will
Yeah.
not be discounting your 34th, so you would not want to see that. And like you want to keep the SUs, but maybe they're just a little bit too slow, and you don't have a Red Dawn. You're worried if a Coastal Howitzer comes out on 3, that could be a big issue.
Sorry, shout out Petrichor in chat for next week. Just make it 3 bands so we can jump straight to game 7. I know what he means 4 bands, but I know what he's saying. Just pitch it. That is a lot of Red Dawn.
Yeah, I mean, he can answer the Shibata, and it will buff his 456th up to a 3-5, which can then take the front line. Unfortunately, the sickle is not going to be able to affect this Shoge regiment, which is just going to simply sit here until it's able to hit into a 456th, into a 34th, into an
Yep.
SU, and that is just the power of Shoge. Is some decks
Yeah.
just don't have ways of getting an easy proc off on it, and you will just keep it in your support line as eventually a 4 credits, 5 damage into the front line, and a draw card. Pretty good.
Yeah, and again, into the mind games, it's open lists. Bubbles knows what that card is.
And
Sorry, not Bubbles. Killswitch knows that card.
I'm not
And it
convinced by the 2 regiment on this turn, because now Killswitch,
No.
it gives Killswitch an option. Killswitch previously, if just a 61st came down or a second Shoge,
Yeah.
Killswitch would be thinking, oh, how do I sacrifice it? Do I try to buff it more? What do I do? The 2 regiment coming down, you just push up the unit that was targeted by the 2 regiment, and either it trades with Shoge, and now you don't have to worry about the 2 regiment effect again, or 2 regiment hits into it, and then you just ping off the 2 regiment, and again don't have to care about the effect anymore.
And you've got the spare credits to be able to do this. I love this thinking of the play, but I agree with you. I think you push up the Walking Dead and say, all right, I'm not sure what that gained you.
Oh, but he sickles
Uh,
into the SU, and that's going to offer him um,
Ooh.
quite the good the turn here. And Rima can come out, but Rima just sort of gets immediately answered by the SU, and then any amount of self-damaging
Yeah.
cards, and then we're back at the same spot. But the 456, they're suddenly getting pretty far out of control. They can't be pushed up at both
Yeah.
at the same time, or else Tsu Regiment and Shoge will hit the one not targeted by Tsu Regiment to remove both.
But I mean, pushing up, what is that? It's 5-7 now. These things are getting big quickly, and Bubbles is not finding a good tempo answer.
I would
I
love for
like this.
Bubbles to just go for the tempo play here. Red Dawn
Yeah,
the Tsu Regiment
100%.
immediately. Don't even wait for it to trade out with the Shoge. Just Red Dawn the Tsu Regiment, push up the surviving 6-8, and then you get to play a
Yup.
Sunrise in the support line as a 9-9, and then you even have the credits left over to trade out the 61st.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a sorry, we mean, by the way, we do mean we're both tired too. We mean Killswitch, not Bubbles. But
Oh,
yes.
yeah.
A huge play. That 9-9 pair of 9-9s in the back. It's like, look, I've got 6-8, 5-3, 2 9-9s. How are you feeling, Bubbles?
And he knows Bubbles is deckless. This is an open list tournament, and also this is his 4th game against this deck.
Yeah.
So he knows this deck inside and out. He knows what this deck can do and what it can't do. And one of the things it can't do is burn out his opponent. There's nothing
Oh,
with Blitz.
Bubbles is gonna hate to see this turn.
Yep, the howitzer is just simply going to go, and
Yeah.
Killswitch, he could drop this in Red Dawn form. He could drop this in from the people form. At this point,
I really like taking from the people here. Just pay the extra credits, keep that extra bit of cushion. There's no reason not to. I really like taking this and playing it the slow way, and he does. I love this play. This is clinical. This is well thought out, and Bubbles is just sad face right now.
we talked a bit about risk in game one. We talked about how much risk that you take, and there is a degree of risk you could take by just slamming it as the from the people. You get +1/+1 on your 456, then maybe that +1/+1 comes back and ends up being a crucial difference in the stats for either closing out the game or making an important trade, etc. But it drops you down to 6, and you know Bubbles' list, it doesn't run Heians. You don't necessarily need to be afraid of
Yeah.
just suddenly bursted down from 6 health from the support line, but, it's taking damage when it's taking a third of your remaining health for +1/+1. That is a
Yeah.
risk that you might take that in game 1 of a best of 7. I don't think you're taking that in game 7 of a best of 7. You're just saying, you know what?
No, this is bad. Oh, can he do it? Oh, he can't. He hasn't got the support line. So I'd like to see him just trade out the tank. To be able to actually, well, if you
I'd
want to
almost,
remove Shibata,
I'd almost just want to keep the tank and just go face for 5 here.
yeah, you could do, yeah, because you can trade out one of the. You'd swing with either of the 9/8s. I wouldn't swing with my guard, but I suppose you can afford to
Yeah, I think I would
swing with
just,
either of the 9/8s and just roll forward and hit face.
if he goes, if he hits the 61st with the 456, pushes 2 9/8s to the front line, swings face for 5, you know one of the 9/8s is getting double traded with the Shoge, so
Yeah.
your opponent's drawing 4 cards on top of the 3 already in hand. That's a lot of cards. But
Yeah, this is why I don't like. I kill switch is thinking, and I know he is. I'm not sure I like the risk in this play, and I know we keep talking about risk, but this is riskier than it looks because if he follows this sequence all the way through, oh, and he does, you've just handed your opponent a lot of cards.
I would have liked. I like this outcome. The only difference is I think you just keep Shibata on board and you go face for the
Yeah,
5 damage, because then that actually sets up lethal if your opponent doesn't heal or plays a guard.
yeah,
And obviously they're probably going to heal and play a guard. But the Shibata's just sitting on board, not really doing anything. So
yeah.
that could be a crucial difference here. Because this Rima's coming out, this surprise attack will stop the Sunrise Division from being able to go face.
Yeah, I will say by the way, it's just a reminder, we have not played 6 games while we're going through lines to this detail, but this is what we're built to do, both of us. We love the analysis, but this is a hard turn to sequence for Killswitch, and he wants to get it right.
It looks like he's going
I,
for the Winter Warfare. And I quite
yeah,
like this. Winter Warfare, push, swing face for 9. You drop your opponent to
yep,
10, and you play the SU, and you end the turn with a 9/8 and a 9/7 and a 7/3 in the front line with your
right,
opponent
yeah,
on no units on board.
yeah. This is huge.
He decides not to play the Winter Warfare,
It's not
and
sequence though.
I
But
I don't mind it.
yeah, I prefer your sequence. You know I'm going to say that because it feels like more value, but it's still a solid outcome. That surprise attack is now where do you want to put it?
Yeah, that naval operation, that is the second one in the deck. Very crucial card for him to find at this point. And Dragon Slayer is going to threaten lethal
Yep.
from his side. And we know that that's not going to happen. There is what I believe is the 4th Red Dawn at this point.
Yep, that's the last one.
The Sickle top deck's also quite good. Because it is going to mean you don't have to play the Winter Warfare. You get to keep a bit more health on your units, keep this 95th alive.
I really like Sickle, Red Dawn into From the People, remove the fighter and say, all right, find another threat. Oh, Sickle into Sickle.
Oh, his plan was to do Sickle in Winter Warfare, remove both
Uh,
cards. But finding the second Sickle means that maybe you don't have to play Winter Warfare here. Depends on how much you're scared. You've
yeah,
removed the mobilization now, so Ryusei can't
yeah.
answer 456th.
Yeah, so I still like, I know, I literally, I still like the line I had. I don't see any reason not. Yep, he's going to go for it. I love this line.
And
Props for being able to think that through. And yes, you're sat on 4 HQ defense, but what a beautiful turn.
I was going to say, he could have even, if either that had come out in Red Dawn form or the previous Red Dawn that came out as a From the People had come out in Red Dawn form, he could have gone for that and would be alive on 1 HP with Innocent Bubbles having no way in his deck to actually
Nope.
kill him.
Yeah, you literally could. You could do it, but why take the? I mean, it's not a risk, but there's no reason to do it. Like legitimately, he totally could. Bubbles would have nothing.
Yeah, at this
Bubbles
point,
is in a really tough
he
place.
just
His
have to
sabotage is
double
a
guard.
dead card. Um, doesn't want to see that. All he can do is guard up.
Bit of a sequencing error not putting the Mobilize on the Rima next to the
Yeah,
Type 94. It's almost certainly not going to.
I don't think it's going to matter massively, but
Yeah, it does. It's difficult to keep this. It's quite difficult actually to keep this Type 94. Or sorry, this 456 alive this turn. It is
yeah,
possible. It is very difficult. But on the following turn, what's important is that you just make sure you end your turn without 3 cards in hand.
wait, hang on. No, no, I'm wrong. Sorry, I thought for a minute I just No, because he hasn't got the swing. I was wondering if I saw lethal. If he runs the Winter Warfare, trades out the guard, then swings and stands together. But
Yeah, 1 damage off.
yeah,
If this
Sorry.
SU in hand was another Winter Warfare, if it was a Bloody Sickle,
Yeah.
if it was a 95th, this game would just be immediately over. And at this point, I would
Yeah.
love trade the Rima, and then just play down the SU. Go down to 1 health. You know
Yeah.
there's nothing in your
Just
opponent's
sit
deck.
on 1 health. You know he can't kill you. Just trade it. Go down to 1 health. It's fine. Get the SU out
He
and just
does it.
say, all right. Yep.
I
Oh, that's
absolutely love this. This is the
yeah.
exactly what you want from self damage, and that's just going to be game over. Bubbles is out of guards. He can heal
Yeah, he's
up,
got nothing.
but it's not going to heal out of range. He can pin the 12 attack 456. This 456 was played on turn 2.
I love, by the way, we were talking about this earlier, personalities of play. You can see Killswitch just hanging that little red sword of Damocles because he knows. He knows Bubbles' list backwards. Bubbles has got nothing here.
The only burst Bubbles has in this list is
Oh, there's the
sabotage into
Euro.
Winter Warfare, but with Killswitch having an empty hand,
Yeah,
that's the honorable fight coming out. Good game. Killswitch just has to not play
love
the
it.
card in his hand, and he wins the game.
What a match! And this was way. This is so close, but so well played. Again, incredibly clinical, and he's gonna finish it off clinically too.
Yeah, and if this is a huge win for Killswitch, just like on his own in terms of where he places in this scoreboard, but it's also a huge win for Birdo Burrito. This is sort of the
Yeah.
exact outcome you wanted to see from this match. Both players tying it in Game 7. I think Killswitch is probably just triple checking the math here. It's very late for him. It's Game 7.
Killswitch, if he's anything like me, is like, is my maths right? Have I read everything on his list? Is there anything I'm missing? Because I do not want to see this go wrong.
It also, I believe, it might just be spectator mode is frozen. There's GGs in the chat. Um,
Yeah, I'm just, I don't know. I can't. I'm not. Oh no, there's movement. I can see dust moving on spectator mode. Maybe. I'm really not sure. You know that moment where you're really nervous about technology?
yeah, it's not the game that's frozen, but it might just be the connection.
Yeah.
To find out again, spectator mode. There's a reason it's not available to the wider public.
Yeah.
It is quite
Yeah.
finicky.
I was gonna say, for those of you who have asked why it's not more available, this would be why.
So I'm just going to get confirmation from our players
Players, yeah.
that this is in
I'm
fact.
just gonna vamp a bit while you go check with the players whether this is over. J King's just gonna go and find out whether we are done. We think we're done. And incredible play from both players. Spectator mode, you almost had it. 1 yard line.
So, at the very least, I don't think
Bubble
spectators
post
mode is going to
Bubble
work, so we can.
Sorry, Bubble posting in chat going, I won this, guys, tells me everything I need to know, and it's the reason that I love the man. Oh, there we go. What a set.
All right. Well, until told otherwise, I'm just going to assume that in fact Killswitch did win this.
Yes.
Whoops! Accidentally moved the win off of his British tank. There we go. Killswitch
Yeah.
getting all 4 green check marks, winning all 4 games, and that is going to have a big impact on our scoreboard. Which, if I refresh it here we go. It is Baron von Glower sole lead in first, winning both of his matches 4 points. Innocent Bubbles Killswitch tied together on 1 point each, with Birdo Burrito just 3 points behind, meaning Birdo is now within striking distance into the top 2. This is the outcome he wanted. It doesn't see Innocent Bubbles climbing any further, and it doesn't see Killswitch climbing any further. This is the best possible option for him to keep both players as low on points as possible for a Birdo Burrito potential comeback into that second seed to qualify
Yeah.
into the finals. So this is absolutely entirely still all to play for in going into week 3, which is exactly what you want to see in this type of format in a 4-person round robin. You don't want to see the person who gets bodied in the first 2 series and is mathematically eliminated. That's no fun to anybody because then they have to play the game even though they know they can't win anything. And it
Yeah.
calls into question how hard are they trying in that final game, which is unfair to the other competitors. But that is not
I
going to be the
just
case at all here.
this I love this. The way that this looks is what makes the competitive player in me want to play in events like this. Not doing it before anyone gets started at me. I am officially retired from competitively playing card games. But this is the sort of thing that gets my juices flowing about how good a format can be. Because look how close this is, even though we've seen a whole set of sequences. These guys are still close. BVG's in he's got to be feeling good right now though, because he's done an extraordinary job and put himself in a really commanding position.
And what I absolutely love about this, if you look at the score or the match wins, the numbers, the columns on the either end, it looks like it's a much more of a one-sided affair with Baron being a top player, Berto being a weak player. But if you look at the individual game win losses, it's so close.
Yeah.
Between 8 and
I mean
6 to 6 and
legitimately.
8. That is
Yeah.
incredible.
We've got literally of 2 players on 7 and 7 here. Like and these guys have now played the maximum possible number of games that they could have done. Every single one of them.
And I'm very curious what's going to happen in week 3 because I mean in week 3 is it going to be a shakeup? Are they just going to get tired of this and people come out swinging and there's some big like 4-1, 4-2 victories, the likes of which we haven't yet seen, or is it just going to continue the trend and be another
Yeah,
4-3, 4-3 nail biter?
yeah, are we just gonna get ground down? I will be around whether it's casting or in the chat for week 3. I'm not going anywhere because this is engaging stuff.
And what's also really awesome about this is standard. So week 1 was just classic, play any cards in the game. And now week 2 we moved into Pauper, which is a bit of an odd format, pun intended, where this is going. But it's still a just non-standard format that you are very used to. It is the most common non-standard format. Now going into week 3, this is when the tournament and the deck building rules gets the wackiest because the week 3 format is odds and evens. Each individual deck you have must contain either exclusively odd cost cards or exclusively even cost cards with the same deck building restrictions of you can run classic cards, you can run reserved cards, and you can only run cards in specific decks, so you can't just simply bring Jet Prototype 5 times.
Yeah.
I'm incredibly
Again,
excited for what that's going to look like. Yes.
I'm throwing the gauntlet down to you, chat. Go and seriously try and build those odds and evens decks using these restrictions and start feeling how brain melting that really is, even with the classic cards available. You will be surprised how quickly your cards that you really want to play start running dry and it all gets very tight and you're like, but I don't want to have yet another odds list.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see how this is going to work out. In some ways, it makes things easier. I've already know some players are discussing like, oh well, I can bring this nation odd and this nation even, and then I completely ignore the restriction because I can't even run cards from those same nations. But they're going to be stretched very thin. I'm incredibly excited to see what type of archetypes people bring because with Classic, I had an idea. With Pauper, I had more of like I had less of an idea than in Classic, but I still had a pretty good idea of the types of cards we would be seeing. Odds versus evens, I have no idea what way you go with this. I mean, there really hasn't been a major competitive event with odds and evens ever. There might have been like 1 or 2, like maybe in a Nations Cup, like several years ago. But the cards in the game have changed completely. This is a very competitive players. These are competitive players competing for real money, and it's all going to be on the line next week as we head into these final matches with odds and evens. That's going to be amazing. But before we head out, I will start to be. I will do 3 additional giveaways. So for those who have stuck around to the end of the stream, you will be getting your chance at winning 2 regular giveaways and a third big giveaway that I'll be doing here. And while I'm doing these giveaways, Bear, feel free to give your plug. If you need to go find links, feel free to find links, post them in the chat.
Just
Everybody,
keep
go check out
vamping.
Bear.
I'm prepared. I promise. It's all ready. It really is. It's not like I'm digging right now.
All right. Well, we'll do the first standard giveaway, and it is going to be going to Superboy 000123. So Superboy, congratulations on the giveaway. And alongside Superboy, we will also be doing a 150 gold giveaway. Who will be going to Dan Civerlap. So Dan, congratulations as well. And the last major giveaway, everybody, get into the giveaway if you haven't already! Exclamation mark giveaway. Again, if you've done it at any point in this entire stream, you don't have to do it again. But if you have not done it, do it now. And let's hit the button for the third big giveaway. Is going to be going to none other than Killarama, who I know has also been around a lot of these streams and just general card streams in general. So congratulations, Killarama, on the 300 gold, and congratulations to all of the other winners. And if you didn't win, or even if you did win but you want to win more, be sure to come back to the stream next week, where there will be 2 more streams, so 2 more sets of giveaways to be given out. And if you have won a giveaway, make sure Twitch Whispers are on so I can DM it to you after the stream. And the exact dates and times of the matches next week will be announced in my Discord, and I will most likely include it in a video I upload at some point next week, just in case there's some of you who only are subscribed to me on YouTube. I'll be announcing it there as well, so be sure to keep an eye out for that, so you don't miss any of these streams, or your chance to win the giveaway, as well as your chance to find out live who is going to be in the finals. I'm very excited. I hope you guys are too. Bear, plug.
Look, legitimately, if you want to know what it's like to come follow me and do this, this is me. Lots of noise, lots of talking, lots of noodle. Love this game. Love the community in this game. I love engaging with you guys. Please come follow me. The links are down in the Twitch chat. You can find me on Discord, YouTube, Twitch. You can find me on social media if you're the kind of person who uses that. I am literally just at Bear_Gardner everywhere. Not notably, though, the Bear Gardner. Do not make that mistake. A friend of mine did. It's not good. It is exactly what you think it might be, and it's not me. But legitimately, yeah, please follow. And just, I have loved every minute of this, and I really hope to be back. Thank you, J. King, for letting me come along and be a part of this utter madness. Thank you to the players for working so hard, and thank you to chat, by the way, for being really cool and chill. I've been keeping an eye on it. Haven't felt like there's anything that has gone off or been problematic, and that's really rare in internet world. So big props to you guys too.
Yeah, big round of applause for everybody, and thank you very much for joining me here in the casting booth, Bear. Hope I haven't kept you awake too long. I know it's getting late there over in the UK, but that is going to be it for this stream, everybody. Thank you very much for watching. Be sure to tune in for the final week of the round robin to find out who is going to be competing in the finals, and we will catch all of y'all in the next one.